I just want. Good afternoon. We'll be starting the public hearing in a few minutes. I just need to allow the Democrat caucus to come out. I just would like to let everyone know that I know an agenda has been set, but we are going to have public comment first, and then we will hear from the police commissioner and his administration. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And I will ask all of you to stand up for the pledge, led by Legislator Sheila Bynoe. Okay, thank you very much for being here. Today we are having another public presentation on the police reform plan that we passed in the beginning of 2021. Normally, you can access the updated plan. Commissioner Reuter does provide it on the website semi-annually. But he had asked also to have it presented in public. So if there are any questions, from public or from the legislators, we'll be able to have a healthy discussion on this. So as I stated before, I know there might have been an agenda that was sent out, but what we're going to do is we're going to start with public comment first, and then we will ask Commissioner Reuter to come up and present the plan. All right, so the first speaker I have is Susan Goddard. Please come up. Oh, if you want to call, yes, we'll do a roll call so we know who's here. Thank you very much. Just hold on, sorry.
Thank you, Denise. Public safety roll call. Legislator Debbie Muley. Legislator Sheila Bynoe. Ranking Member Delia Dirigi-Whitten. Legislator Mazi Philippe.
Here.
Substituting for Vice Chairman Stephen Rhodes is John Giuffre. and Chairwoman Denise Ford. Thank you.
All right, Susan, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Gotterer. I'm the director of the Nassau County New York Civil Liberties Union and the chair of the Police Accountability Working Group for Long Island United. I'm here to ask Police Commissioner Ryder questions about the status of his police reform plan and hope that you will rigorously question him as well. I'd like to know that the Police Commissioner and this body have not honored the police reform plan regarding the promise to report biannually. The last report was 2022 in January. As you may know, Long Island United to Transform Policing and Community Safety issued a report in October monitoring the Nassau County Police Department's progress. It is in front of you as we speak. We issued this report because the police reform plan is filled with misdirection and mischaracterizations and counts on the public's inability or capacity to do a deep dive into highly technical areas. The contempt for the public is clear in this document, and the strategy to avoid transparency is working to create zero accountability. The only accountability that this department has is placed in front of them by the advocates through either lawsuits or reports or public comment. In fact, the Vera Institute just issued a report this year ranking the department the third worst in the country for transparency and accountability. Our report shows that the NCPD is falling short in almost every area covered. On bias and policing, we found at the 1-year mark, the disparities in arrests and field interviews show a range of 2.5 times more likely for Black people to be arrested or interviewed than white people, and that goes for all the categories of data presented. In the newly released data, the numbers are even worse in some categories or the same. So far, the police reform has not worked. The Nassau County data is completely amateur hour and unprofessional. Last year, we asked the police commissioner to provide data demographically disaggregated by resident and non-resident. He said he would supply it. Not only did he not supply it, but he took down the website for months. It just recently was put back up. The 1-year report also erroneously claimed that the PD is complying with the STAT Act and referenced requests by advocates. Complying with an existing law is not a police reform. This is exactly the kind of thing that exists inside the police reform plan. We will ask him again, please post the OCA data for Nassau County onto the website. We asked for this last year. He said he would do it. Not only did he not do it, he took down the website. They have been court-ordered to return 50A misconduct records to NYCLU by the courts. They were ordered this in July. NYCLU is still waiting for reports. Regarding investigations, do investigations take place at the precinct level? And isn't there a conflict of interest if there is a respondent superior existing at the precinct level, meaning superiors have to take responsibility for what their subordinates do? The Nassau County Police Reform Plan is filled with lots of words and no real reform. Please tell us your plan, Commissioner, to improve your bias policing. Please tell us when you will release 50A records. And finally, please tell us why you are so allergic to oversight and accountability. As of right now, the advocates and lawsuits are the only accountability measures. You, the Public Safety Committee of the Legislature, have to step up and do your job rigorously. The police are not your buddies. They are a powerful executive agency run amok, and you are the legislative body charged with oversight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And just to let you know that there will be no direct questions to Commissioner Ryder. If there are any questions that anybody would like to have answered, it will be directed through this committee. Okay. Bishop J. Raymond Mackay, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our commissioner, who I have a personal relationship with, and I'm just amazed at some of the thoughts and things that I've heard. The past 7 weeks has been under doctor's care because of a allergic reaction that happened in my body, but nonetheless, I've been in the hospital 4 times. But I came here today in support of our commissioner. There's a lot of facts that you can hear, but you can get all the facts, even in the courtroom, and not come out with the truth. The truth of the matter is, there's a mechanism, that's far greater than the commissioner, and there's so many issues within Nassau County and also with our government that needs fixing, and we know that for a fact. I've been working with his predecessors, go all the way back to Commissioner Willett, and I've worked from Commissioner Willett up into our present commissioner. And I must say, without a shadow of a doubt, that racism and discrimination does exist in our country as well as in our county as well, too. We all know that. But the fact of the matter is, I do not believe that there's any type of issues of that nature with our commissioner. We know that it's a great task that he has, and I believe he has a great team, and my time is almost up, but I did ask Officer Daniels and Officer King if I could use their 3 minutes. They said yes, so that would give me 9, all right? But I'm here. I want my presence to let you know that I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that we have a great commissioner who is working with a system that's broken, a system that needs to be fixed. And so therefore, when I heard that requesting his resignation and my time is up, I can keep
Please,
going?
you could still.
No? Oh, okay, thank you so much. But I did press my way out here with challenges. And he sent 2 officers came and picked me up. I said, this is the first time in my life I ever rode in a police car. But I think that we should find solutions instead of focusing on the problem. And if we come up with solutions, we can resolve whatever the problem is. I text our commissioner every single day. I'm a texter. I send out 2,000 texts a week just to keep encouraging individuals, and he's one of them that has been a true friend. And I know a lot of the work and the outreach they have done. Even myself have reached out to recruit police officers, and it's very challenging, especially in our community, because of how the media has portrayed police officers. And so I'm going to come to a close. My final statement is, we have a great commissioner. He's a good man. He may not be a perfect man. I'm a good man, and I'm striving for perfection. After 51 years in ministry and 44 years pastoring, I'm still practicing. And so I say, I support our commissioner 1,000%. And despite the challenges, because we all have challenges, and I'm closing again, you know, preachers have several closing. And this is my last one. Let's support him. Let's work with him as a community as a whole, all right? So that we can get rid of the ills that exist. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor, for coming here, and despite your health issues. And we really appreciate seeing you again. And I think we all will all join together in hoping and wishing and praying for a full recovery for you. All right? So, but thank you very much. Terrell Dozier, if I don't say your name right, I apologize.
Hello. Okay. Hello, my name is Terrell Dozier, and I'm a steering committee member of LI United. First, I want to say I'm happy to see that the NCPD is providing an update on their data. However, I will say that what was released as a 2022 report with only what I can see as 5 slides of that data is a far cry from even what was released 1 year ago, which I believe was 48 pages. So the questions I have is, where is information related to mental health and mental health incidents? Where is anything related to the implementation, the actual what is occurring within the reforms, which is exactly why we are all here today. This is not something that will simply go away, and the standard of what a proper report entails cannot be lessened simply because police reform is no longer the topic of the day that it was a couple of years ago. And if in fact, and I do believe, if in fact the 2020 police reform plan was a genuine effort by Nassau County PD to engage with this topic, then they must follow up with reports that also live up to that genuineness for years to come. Not just this year, but also next year, the year after. Now, I'll say I hope and I believe that the officers who wear the NCPD uniform and who fill the seats that we see today in this hall are upstanding individuals who care about their communities, regardless of race, that comprise Nassau County. And based on that premise, they, as well as you all who are up there, must be concerned with some of the findings that are in this report and in this data. Relative to Nassau County demographics, black community members are at least 5 times more likely than whites to be arrested. Now, I know that the natural thing that will be said is that, well, this is simply where the crime is. But decades and decades of research also show that there are no significant discrepancies between race as it relates to drug uses and traffic violations. Yet here in Nassau County, blacks are at least 3 times more likely arrested for having a controlled substance and more than 3 times more likely to be stopped for a traffic violation. These defy the argument that we just go where the crime is. What is being done to buck this problematic trend? And legislature, what will you do to buck this trend? Now, finally, I'm also deeply concerned about the data regarding the number of founded allegations in 2022. 15 founded year-to-date allegations compared to 126 in 2021 and 101 in 2020. I believe in change, but something doesn't add up when we still see the discrepancies in the data that I've already mentioned. So the question is, what disciplinary action was handed out for those 15 founded allegations? And for that matter, what disciplinary action was handed out for the 227 founded allegations from the past 2 years? And why the dramatic drop in founded allegations? And the bigger question that I have for this body, and I'll be done, is what will the legislature do to address what is clearly in the own data from Nassau County a persistent issue? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alo Fleischer.
Good afternoon. My name is Arlo Fleischer. I'm an organizer for the Nassau Regional Office of the New York Civil Liberties Union. I appreciate Commissioner Ryder being here to report on the progress of NCPD reform, but I also feel like it's important to acknowledge that this report is 4 months overdue. One of the promises of police reform was to report to this committee every 6 months. However, the last report was over 10 months ago in January. Transparency has also proven to be an issue in the way that the NCPD is handling their reform website. The website was recently reposted online, but for many months it had been removed despite repeated calls from advocates asking for it to be put online and even verbal commitments from Commissioner Ryder agreeing. For the NCPD to truly be committed to transparency, this information must remain available and it cannot be posted only in the final few days before the Commissioner may be faced with accountability. These practices only serve to put up a facade, and that is not reform. The NCPD's actions have been directly contrary to their promises, which reveals the total lack of oversight that they operate with. And more than that, it shows the deeply troubling attitude that lies at the very core of why we need reform and accountability to that reform. How are we supposed to trust the lives and safety of our Black and brown community members with such dangerous indifference? Beyond the reform process and the lack of transparency, it is crucial to examine the policing practices of the NCPD and the impact or lack thereof of reform to these practices. On the website, the only new information that has been posted since the January Reform Update Report is the newest demographic data on arrests, use of force, field interviews, complaints, and summons. There is no information available on the status of reforms to police practices, such as implementing a mobile crisis response team. To make the questions about the progress of these initiatives even more pressing, what we do know based on the data that is shared is that the NCPD is failing to reduce bias policing. Commissioner Ryder has previously stated that the NCPD data cannot be accurately compared against the demographics of Nassau County, since many non-white residents may be entering the county and quote-unquote coming here to commit some kind of criminal act, which is a deeply problematic perspective in and of itself. So we did the analysis, and we looked at the numbers against the population of Nassau County and against the population of Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, and Kings County combined, and either way the data conclusively points to bias policing. Black people are 5 to 12 times more likely to be stopped in a traffic stop than white people, 3 to 8 times more likely to be stopped for a field interview, 4 to 11 times more likely to be subjected to a pat-down, 2 to 6 times more likely to be arrested, and 2 to 6 times more likely to be subjected to use of force. Apart from the use of force, these numbers are not going down. In fact, in most cases, they are increasing from the last set of data that was shared. We are here talking about reform because the lives and livelihoods of our Black and Brown community members hang in the balance. And so Executive Order 203 specifically emphasizes reducing racial disparities as the top priority of reform. The fact that the website is back online and that the NCPD is finally making good on that particular promise gives me very little comfort when all that I have seen tells me that what is being done is not working. You have the power to make a difference. We need better oversight, we need more accountability, and we need rigorous questioning of the updates provided. Thank you.
Emily Kaufman.
Just leave it. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you to Commissioner Ryder for finally offering an updated report. I echo a lot of the concerns. Sorry, let me start. My name is Emily Kaufman. I'm also a steering committee member with LA United to transform policing and community safety, and I've also worked deeply with the mental health and crisis response work group. And we were here, if you'll remember, 2 years ago to talk a lot about that issue. Just to set up a frame, back in 2020 when we were having these conversations, Commissioner Ryder had very clearly stated, from what I remember, that he didn't believe that police reform was an issue needed in Nassau County, that was a Minneapolis issue. When I look at the 6-month report that is 4 months late, we're at the end of November, 2 days before Thanksgiving, which makes it very hard for the public to come out right now. When I look at the 6-month report that has 7 slides, I have the experience of believing Commissioner Ryder that this department does not believe reform is necessary. Because if reform were necessary, as my colleague Terrell Dozier mentioned before, a more robust report would be presented. So what's missing? For the year follow-up report, as was mentioned, was a 48-page report with a number of different issue areas delineated. Today we're presented, and it only was released last week, 7 slides. 7 slides of pretty insufficient data. There's no understanding of total encounters so that we can accurately take a look at how many encounters are leading to arrests. We can put the disparities that were laid out previously in a greater context of what's happening. Previously, LA United has brought in the Center of Policing Equity to the former county executive and to this body to ask if they would like assistance from the Center of Policing Equity, which is a national body, in developing real data metrics so that we can take a look at what is happening with policing in Nassau County and the disparities that we see. That offer's absolutely on the table. We maintain a relationship with the Center of Policing Equity and would love to bring them here to Nassau County so we can have an honest conversation. Additionally, and the piece that's most glaring to me as a member of the crisis response team, is any information on what's happening with mental health calls. Our work group had been in contact with Chief Barbieri and Commissioner Ryder to try and start a dialogue around what progress has been made. Those conversations fell off. We welcome the opportunity to pick that up again so that we can understand. We do understand some hires have been made, but we don't know if there's new 911 call scripts. We don't know what the data looks like as far as who is handling those calls. Are there reductions in transports to the ER? What is the arrest data looking like? Is there a crisis stabilization center? It was a huge part of the reform plan, and it's completely absent in this 6-month report. So I ask this body, please, as has been said before, to utilize rigorous questioning, because you are the public's hope and the place that we can go for actual oversight and accountability so that we can move Nassau from third from the bottom. As was mentioned, that the Vera Institute has named NCPD as third from the bottom in the country on transparency and accountability. That's not acceptable, and we can move that up, and you are the first line of defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Joseph.
Hello. All right. Hi, I'm Jeremy Joseph. I'm a member of LI United as well and a resident of Hicksville. It's been 2 years since we've been having this discussion on police reform. Us community activists have offered solutions. The police have consistently rejected these improvements, and this legislative body has followed suit. Our solutions are not novel, nor are they revolutionary. They are standards in modern policing that have been proven to improve safety outcomes and save taxpayer money, especially for a police department as large as this one. We asked for transparency in the form of open data and regular reports. We asked for accountability in the form of a CCRB and an Inspector General so that we could have independent review of complaints against officers. And in case you need a reminder why that's needed, a recent report in Gostamist from this past month cited 144 civilian complaints in the last 6 years against our police department. According to our existing Internal Affairs Bureau, 0 of those were founded. It's very convenient. However, in court, dozens of those cases have resulted in judgments of excessive force and false arrest in favor of these victims. We asked for language access so non-English speakers can be treated the same as the rest of us. That has not happened. You'll hear more about that shortly. We asked for alternate response units for those suffering mental health crises. We're not even close to that. Instead, this legislative body submitted a police reform plan that was embarrassingly meaningless. And you haven't delivered on that yet. We were promised biannual reports from the police commissioner. These meetings have not happened. We were promised data reporting to be posted on the NCPD website. That page has spent more time down than up by far. Instead, we have a police department that has continued to operate without oversight. So following on Susan's citing of the data from Vera Institute, we followed up with them. They updated Nassau County Police's ranking from number 3rd worst in the country to 2nd worst. Maybe by the next time we meet, we'll be number 1 as far as being that, bad as far as requiring transparency and accountability. This past year, over 60% of adults arrested in Nassau County were Black or Hispanic. These groups represent less than 1/3 of Nassau County's population. Even today, look around the room. I can count on 2 hands how many visible minorities there are here. And for those watching virtually, there are about 100 law enforcement officers here. And yet, these Black and brown members, we constitute the vast majority of arrests in Nassau County. We have more data on Nassau County policing, and every way you cut it, minority groups are being over-policed. Just recently, we decided to, or rather the legislative body, I'll wrap up, decided to increase funding for our police department. When you give more funding to an agency without any conditions, you're essentially saying that we want more of what you're doing. Apparently, we want more racially biased policing, more abuses of power, more uninvestigated complaints, more mental health crises not receiving the care it deserves. So I would say for a first step, please enforce your own standards. The police commissioners should report to the PSC as outlined in your own reform plan. The police reform website should be back online with the required reports on data and policy, and this is the bare minimum. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Keshner.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Keshner. I'm a Nassau County resident, and I coordinate the Long Island Language Advocates Coalition. We work to ensure that people are provided with equal access to programs and services, regardless of the language that they speak and regardless of their English proficiency. A couple of months ago, LILAC issued a report documenting a number of calls which were made to the Nassau County Police Department in which Spanish speakers who were testers were not provided with access to services and to information that they needed in approximately 1/2 of the cases. We brought this to the attention of Commissioner Ryder, as we have multiple times in the past, and yet we have seen no changes. We've been doing testing since the Nassau County Executive Order was passed in 2013, mandating language access at public agencies, and yet we are not seeing the changes that we need. Officers are allowed to test their own proficiency in another language rather than being independently evaluated. The language access plan is insufficient, and there continues to be a pattern of bias, as we've heard from other speakers here today. Shortly after issuing our report, Long Island United issued their report documenting that there were a disproportionate number of traffic stops of Black and Latino motorists, and that they were subject to a disproportionate number of summonses and arrests. So that, coupled with the LILAC report, shows that there is a pattern of bias policing in this county. The response that we've gotten from the department is only how many times they have used Language Line. But what happens in those cases when they are not providing language assistance? How many domestic violence calls are not being answered? How many people who need to report a hate crime are unable to do so? How many people's lives are being placed in danger by this failure to take appropriate action and to address these problems? We did request a meeting with the Public Safety Committee, and we have not received a response. It is time for action. This has gone on for way too long. So we are asking you to step up. This is not a matter of politics. It's a matter of protecting every member of our community to ensure that people are not being discriminated against based on their language proficiency, based on the color of their skin. We need you to take action now. This is federal law. These are civil rights violations which are being committed by this department, and we need action now. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy Shelvin.
Thank you. I'm Tommy Shevlin. I'm the Nassau County PBA president, and I'm joined here with Ricky Forsetti, the SOA president, and Jeffrey Gross, the AI president. Unfortunately, we have to stand here and defend ourselves once again, and defend our great police department and our great police commissioner. Patrick Ryder is a good and fair man. I see it every day, and I know how much he cares about his community and about his cops. And I know that his heart is in the right place because he is a cop, and we're all cops. And I want to say this, I don't have statistics here. That's not my job. I'm speaking here today as a police officer and representing the voice of police officers. We risk our lives every single day and night. We put on a bulletproof vest. We kiss our loved ones goodbye to go to the communities that we serve, to risk everything, to protect all of you, to keep you safe, to take you to the hospital when you need to. We get 911 calls. Police officers do not say, what race is that person? Do they speak English? What religion are they? We respond the same for everyone because we're human beings. We're all human beings. We care. It takes a special person to be a police officer. We risk it all. And I'm tired of the anger, the false narrative that's being brought upon us, the finger pointing, Things will never change if we continue this rhetoric. Are we perfect? No. Nobody is. We're human. And we're all willing to change. But we need to work together, not point fingers and create us versus them. It doesn't work. It didn't work 2 years ago, and it will not work in the future. We welcomed police cameras, body cameras for our police officers. It helps us. We welcome training, whatever training you want to give us. We can continue to grow and be better humans and better police officers. But we need to stop this anger. We miss our children's sporting events. We miss their school plays. We miss holidays with our families to be in the communities that we serve. We have a lot of respect for everybody. We show it every day. Commissioner Ryder leads that way, and he holds us accountable. So all I ask is that you look at it for what it is. Numbers are numbers. We'll give you statistics, but at the end of the day, let's talk. Bring us into your communities. Let's deal with this the right way, not finger pointing. I'll end with this. The attorneys and the people that push this false narrative, would they give their life for you and for the communities? We would. We do. And we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the public comment section. So I guess we'll take a few minutes so that Commissioner Ryder and his team can come up and get set up. Please note that Minority Leader Legislative Abrahams is here with us.
Steve, tell Steve he's going to turn that on. Steve's ready. Turn that on. You're ready. I lost my roll call. I am ready.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I just got to take a moment to first thank Bishop Mackey, who came out here today. He just got out of the hospital, back and forth, and again, he's been a strong supporter of us and done the right thing by us, so we're constantly in supporting him back. Yesterday, we did over 60 turkeys. We do toy drives, backpack giveaways. We're in the community doing book readings. We do superheroes. We're constantly working with his group on Terrace Avenue. We've provided equipment and stuff. So when Bishop Mackey speaks and when Bishop Mackey calls, we answer, just like we do for everybody. And I 40 years in law enforcement, I find myself constantly defending my police department. No, they are not my buddies. They are my family. And my family that stands together, a family that is united, but a family that must treat their communities fair. I demand that from my own family at home. I will demand that from my cops. And my cops do that every single day when they go out there. In our motto, loyalty, integrity, fairness, and excellence. That word fairness means something to us. We take a lot of pride in what we do. The men and women that you see behind me are my PAL, my community affairs, my COPE cops, all of those that have been going out into our communities forever, but especially over the last 2 years. Building bridges, making sure that things are done right and that we have that outreach. That's what we do. We don't ever leave here, and I wanted them to be here to see what goes on in reform because they create the narrative for me, and they understand it. And they are African American, Hispanic, male, female, LBG. We have all, and we accept all, and we defend all. As you heard from Tommy Sutherland, we are willing to put our lives on the line for every one of you. That's what we do. That's what heroes do, and they are true heroes that stand behind me. As far as the report goes, that report was done as required. That report was submitted as required. Technology broke on the link. That's not my responsibility. I'm not the tech. I can barely figure out my phone. But that technology broke. And that's why that report wasn't here. And we were given the opportunity, prepared to come whenever asked by this legislative body to answer questions. Today was the day that was chosen. We are here. We don't run and hide from any of it. As far as the language line report, again, I'll say it again, and I respect Cheryl, I respect Susan, I respect them all that come up here and have their opinion. And they know that I am always respectful to them. I make nothing personal. But you can't keep calling me out for a language line report that was done at 47 times, I think was the number, that they had bad interaction when you will hear from Sabrina Gregg today on how many times we use the language line. And when I asked them, and I gave them my personal cell phone, and I said, when you interact with somebody and it's bad, I don't care if it's an audit process or somebody complaining to you, you call me immediately, I will address it immediately. Not 6 months later in the Newsday report. That doesn't work. I can't go back. I have gone back. There's 47 open cases in the Nassau County Internal Affairs Unit that are trying to track where these calls came from. So I can't do that. I can't fix if everybody's not willing to get it fixed. I asked for their report. I am sure they were tape-recorded conversations. Let me have them. I'll be able to identify the voice behind that, and then I'll be able to discipline them. But no, that doesn't happen. It's a hit job, and that's what happens. And I stand here and I defend it, and I defend my men and women because I know the men and women of this police department. And when you talk about discipline, this past year alone, 9 officers have been forced to resign, have been terminated, or forced to retire because of their behavior of how they treat both the public and this police department. 9. That's the most done in the history of this department. And I'll show you the other 12 shields that sit on my desk that we have removed for not being and treating people proper. The rest work too damn hard to have a few ruin it for us. So we will not tolerate that as we go forward. Today you're going to hear from Commissioner Smith about wellness. You brought wellness to me. And I believe in when we speak about wellness, I can't have a cop making tough decisions if he's not taking care of himself first. He has to be healthy, and you'll hear from Commissioner Smith. Chief Palmer will talk about the police academy. All the reform asks have been done and instituted. Every single one of them have been put into place as asked and are being done every single day. You'll hear from the Chief of Detectives, Chief Farrow, talk about hostage negotiation and mental health. We have a 100% success rate when it comes to our mental health, that nobody's been killed or injured. 100%. I don't know where the numbers they're coming from, but these are the numbers that are out there. Chief of Patrol will talk to you, Chief Canavan, about the quality of life calls that we receive and the crime initiative that we do. And yes, we do go into communities with the backing or the 911 call that is being asked by our community for help. Chief of Support, Chief Atmore is sick today, but Chief Wilson is here, and he will talk to you about our civilian side of it. And these are all going to be short synopses. I'm not going to make this a big, long, drawn-out day. Inspector Field will talk about the hiring, the mentoring, and the recruitment process, or what we, the Nassau County Police Department, control. And you all know the narrative. I don't control a lot of that, almost none of it. So do I control recruitment? Yes. Do I control mentoring? Yes. Have we improved on that? 100%. And then you're going to hear from Chief Stillman. As they talk about Chief Stillman, they're going to talk to you about how our complaint numbers have dropped 30%. Why? Body cameras. And I thank you. It's transparency. It opens it up. Our founded cases have dropped. Our unfounded cases have dropped. He will give you the numbers and explain to you why. And then we'll come back with Sabrina Gregg and Chief Farrow to talk to you about hate crime and what we're trying to do, and also how both of them have a part in that, and what we, the police department, are trying to do. I hear it when you speak, both about Park, Walk, and Talk. We have done 90 hours since I last left you here at this table. 90 hours in the community, stopping and visiting shop owners in Uniondale, Roosevelt, Westbury, and Elmont. We've been out in the communities addressing, making sure in uniform, that group of people that behind you. So I hear that, and I hear the hate crime issue, and I just got off a Zoom earlier from the was not the ADL, it was the other group, I apologize. But, and we talked about that. And we need to look at it. And we have it, and Sabrina Gregg has been to the first meeting of what we can do to make it better. So you'll hear all of that. I will do the numbers then, and any questions that you wish to ask upon me. I never say no. You'll never say, I don't care what party you are, what race you are, what religion. That phone rings, and I answer it, and I do it. And if I'm wrong, call me. I'll fix it. And many a times I'm not. And you're going to hear some interesting facts tonight. And I apologize that report was not out on time, but it ain't my fault. But I'll take the hit. All right? I got a tough skin. So I'm going to start off with Commissioner Smith.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. But before we go, the one topic we will not be discussing today in light of recent litigation will be your recruitment and hiring. My counsel has...
We understand that we will touch off just what we're doing. And recruitment's not part of the lawsuit.
Okay.
And we will tell you what we're doing in recruitment, and we will also tell you what we're doing in the mentoring program.
Okay, but there will be
Not about hiring.
no further questions.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. First Deputy Commissioner Kevin Smith. So this administration, Commissioner Ryder's administration, strives to hire and develop men and women that will be physically, intellectually, and emotionally able to do this job. Our offices see a side of life fraught with emotional ups and downs. Stressors in every shape and form, external, internal, organizational, to name a few. Additionally, like everyone else, we are vulnerable to personal crises. Life sometimes gets in the way of your well-being. We believe we are at the forefront in law enforcement, agencies that aggressively look to promote health and wellness for its members, both sworn and civilian. In April 2019, Commissioner Ryder resurrected the Wellness Committee. The Wellness Committee was formed to discuss and evaluate all matters as they relate to mental and physical well-being of our members of the department. The Wellness Committee is comprised of members from various units of the department, including our Employee Assistance Office, our peer support, our department chaplains, and the others representing the divisions, different spectrums of units, and of course, our unions. Our mission, the mission of the Wellness Committee, is to develop and maintain and promote programs, services, and policies that support the physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, thereby allow members to achieve full professional and personal potential. Now, traditionally in policing, an officer's mental health and wellness has been overlooked once they got out into the street. This department's changing that, and it's being done with great enthusiasm from our team. We have a strong showing at our seminars with healthy lifestyle topics ranging from nutrition and mindfulness, resiliency, not to mention coping skills, breathing skills, relaxation techniques, all in the interest of keeping a sound mind, a rested body, and keeping a balance of emotional intelligence. Or in other words, finding the skill set to keep your head about you while concern, panic, and chaos is going on around you, because that's what we do. Just to summarize the level of commitment we have to our members. The department, I think you know this, has a full-time employee assistance office, which department members, retired members, and their families can avail themselves to for counseling and or referrals for a wide range of issues. Now remember, what's going on at home can influence moods and behavior as well. So opening up this service to our families can greatly enhance our office's peace of mind that his or her family concerns are being addressed. We have our peer support team, which can be called out at a moment's notice, comprised of members of various units of the department. To situations which can create grave impact on our members' emotional well-being. Years ago, one was left to deal with this on their own, and sometimes not in the best manner. Today, peer support preaches that you don't have to go through it alone, and that help is available without negative perceptions, trying to break that stigma that was there for years and years. Let me end with the Wellness Committee. We meet monthly or more often to discuss what will benefit the department's members, and also to make recommendations on topics that may need to be addressed at yearly training sessions. A constant topic and the right word to promote is awareness, making our members aware. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the rash of police suicides in the tri-state area a few years ago got the ball rolling. With suicide awareness at the forefront, it made perfect sense to explore all of the previous mentioned topics and to aid our members emotionally and physically sound, and keep them physically sound. By instilling in our members that the responsibility of all of us in this family, as the Commissioner said, to recognize that some form of stress may be affecting our peers, our subordinates, our supervisors, and to have the concern and to act. That action can result in a recommendation, or if necessary, even an order that that person seeks help and gets the help that they need. That's all I have to say. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
I'm now going to turn it over to Chief Palmer, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone here today. Honorable members of the legislature and everyone in the audience, thank you. And I'll say it up front, since it should be said, happy Thanksgiving to everyone here, and health to your families. I'm Chief Stephen Palmer, Chief of Department. Currently, our basic course for police officers curriculum consists of over 1,000 hours of instruction, well above the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services requirement of 699 hours of instruction. I'm just going to give you a brief, quick overview of the things that are taught to our recruits in the academy, purely based upon police reform. One, decision making. We give 8 hours toward that. That is a state requirement, and they're given various exercises and implicit biases incorporated in each one of those exercises in respect to how it can corrupt their decisions. For cultural diversity, 8 hours. New York State requires 5. We give 8 hours a full day to the staff there. We use almost entirely outside instructors. Members from the following communities regularly come in and teach the recruits from the African American community, Korean American, Hispanic community, Sikh community, Jewish, Islamic and Hindu communities, and the LGBTQIA community. 20 hours are dedicated to fundamental crisis intervention. We look over the indicators of emotional stress, communication, legal issues, and treatment and recovery and resources. Professional communications, de-escalation, we give 8 hours. We were teaching this for over 6 years before the state made it a requirement. We focus on how to speak and interact with all members of the community and de-escalating ourselves in the face of manageable adversity. Maintaining control over ourselves. We go over the 5 universal truths to human interaction. Communication is key, active listening, and principles of impartiality. We teach ethical awareness, 8 hours. That is a New York State requirement, but we build in ethics throughout many different disciplines as we go through this. We give a course in ethics in policing. 16 hours are dedicated to officer wellness, where we address a variety of issues with our officers so they can take care of themselves, as Commissioner Smith said, and physically, mentally more adequately able to assist the community. We introduce values, ethics, and morals, another 2 hours, where we lay the groundwork for the remainder of the training and what a service-oriented police department means to us and the community. We've never lost that. Ethical and moral courage, 2 hours. We address standing up for one's ethical beliefs and values, holding each other accountable for our actions, and reporting potential issues before they ever become problems. We examine inhibitors, conformity to the group, shifting the mindset, and discuss the duty to intercede, the duty to intervene, and the risks of non-intervention. We spend at least an hour on a legal update talking about EO 203 and any other changes in the penal law or laws that are applicable to police reform. Procedural justice gets another 2 hours. It's a state requirement. We stress the need to provide everyone that we encounter with a voice and reinforcing the service-oriented policing style, what police legitimacy means, and the benefits of legitimacy and procedural justice. And for implicit bias, that's 2 hours. We introduce what that is, dispelling preconceived notions of what they thought it was, and explaining to them why it matters, and how it can have an adverse effect, and not on just only policing, but the world. And they are giving the techniques of self-intervention. These are just some of the things that we go over in the academy, including the 699 hours that we have to give our people for state certification. Again, over 1,000 hours of instruction we give to them, real-life scenarios that we play out with them, all with police reform, intervention, crisis intervention, and managing their own biases woven into that. And we've actually put together at least an in-service course that we've been giving for the past 2 years. We'll develop one for 2023 too. That's in the works, which will continually hammer home the important issues that were brought forth in police reform and treating communities, no matter where and who they consist of, appropriately with respect and service. And that's what I have about the Police Academy.
Thank you. I'm now going to have Chief of Detectives Chris Farrell.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak about our response, the department's response to mental aid calls throughout the county. So I'll give you some numbers and I'll give you some context behind it. Year to date, we responded to 3,102 calls for services from the communities in Nassau County and villages. Out of that, 2,900 were transported to area hospitals, and most of the hospitals at UMC. 144 were deemed not a risk. Out of the 3,102, emergency services unit responded to 72 of those scenes, and they successfully negotiated the surrender of that person in mental crisis at 64 times out of 72, a very high rate, over 90%. The remainder 8, the emergency service unit did use force with no serious injuries to any civilians or officers. Out of those 3,102 calls, hostage negotiation team was deployed to 11 of those scenes. Hostage negotiation teams is under the Detective Division, which is under my command. Out of those 11, 8 negotiated and were negotiated out of the scene, and there's 3 tactical entries by BSO, again, no serious injuries to civilians or police officers. Mobile Crisis Outreach is contacted for each of these instances. They responded, we have as 108 of these scenes. They help us and assist us when they can. Sometimes they know some of the aides they had, in prior occasions with them. So the reason successful numbers here I gave you is, first of all, every police officer is trained, like Chief Palmer said, in the academy, 8 hours of de-escalation training and mental crisis training. Additionally, the hostage negotiation team trains and lectures every recruit for the last 6 years with active listening skills, negotiating skills. Then we put every recruit through real live role-playing with hostage negotiating detectives. And each of these recruits feel like they were put in a real situation that they're going to counter in the field. The other successful reason is Emergency Services Unit, besides their training, their tactical training that they train each and every week, they also get hostage negotiation training. They're proactive in training and in using active listening skills. So that's one of the reasons, or several reasons, why we in the department have been successful with dealing with the individuals with mental health crisis. Thank you.
So I got to add to that just one piece. When he talks about that the original calls that come in, many of these calls that come in get a referral right to Mobile Crisis, and we hand off that call if Mobile Crisis says, we got it. We know the person, we can handle this, it's a little depression, it's ours. We hand it over to that Communications Bureau. The rest of them are dual response type cases. When it's the heaviest of the calls, they wait outside until it's over. And many times they'll then speak to the person to help negotiate after the fact. So their Mobile Crisis is with us and responding. I have now coming up our Chief of Patrol, Kevin Canavan, to talk about the quality of life and our crime initiatives.
Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving. I just want to take you back for a couple of seconds, back to the 1970s. This department had 3,900 sworn members and about 1,000 civilian members. Back in that time, I went through the FBI National Academy in 2007. One of the books I read then, and it's still in use in the National Academy, is James Wilson. He was a sociologist who wrote Varieties of Police Behavior. In that book, he cited 8 different communities throughout the United States that were involved in what they called team policing at the time. This was the predecessor of community-oriented policing. Nassau County was featured in that book. Currently, we have significantly less members than we did back then, but we have a different way of doing our policing now. We still maintain the community-oriented policing model. Our POP officers in our precincts, our commissioner maintains a rather robust community affairs unit, including the members you see behind us. Our school visit program was initiated a few years back, and currently we have performed well over 10,000 visits to our schools. This is not the park walk and talk that the commissioner was talking about. This is our cops, while on patrol, stopping, visiting any of the almost 400 school buildings in the county and making their presence known. The commissioner also instituted the community council, the local commissioners' councils. He seeks input from the community members to help us in doing a better job of policing. The challenges we face today are significantly different than what we faced back in the 70s or when I started in the 80s. When I first faced when I came in as the chief of patrol in 2018, we've seen a different kind of crime evolve, a different role in our policing model of what we're doing. And right now, we rely very heavily on intelligence-led policing, and we couple that and mix that with our community-oriented policing style. Today, we see a rise in crime, as we do across the nation, especially in the region right here, and we address that through competent and respectful means. I believe that we are meeting the challenge. I really do. Again, by the use of intelligence policing models. Intel bulletins. Every month, sometimes more often, our intelligence unit provides us with a list of intelligence briefings. The briefings, these intel models, we distribute throughout our commands, throughout the precincts, throughout our Bureau of Special Operations, and we really look to attack the problems by looking back. What happened this time last year? What happened in the prior month? What happened in a 5-year, basically a rolling average? So what we can see, we try to predict where the crime is going to be and put our officers where they're most used. But we always go back to our roots, always. Right now, we'll talk just very quickly about our quality of life database. Back in February 2021, we started this. The chief of department came out with an order about creating this database. Anyone can call the local precinct, call patrol, call headquarters, email, whatever it might be, even a text message. And we'll enter that complaint, that issue, that problem as what we call a quality of life issue. That goes into our database, we look at it, and we follow up with it constantly. Right now, we have 513 issues that we're looking at in that database. They're reviewed monthly by our precinct commanding officers, and we track it, what we've done to rectify the situation. For the most part, this all comes down to vehicle and traffic law issues, including parking conditions. Of the 513 that we have, about 60% vehicle and traffic law. It's the stop sign in the local neighborhood. But that's how we address those local issues in community policing. The vehicle and traffic law, like I said, makes up about 60% of that. The remainder include a variety of things from narcotics to noise complaints. But that's this department listening to the community. We allow the community to point us in the right direction, and that's where we put our cops. This year, we made a significant emphasis on the prevention and apprehension of those committing retail crime. Larcenies, grand larcenies, crimes that start out as a larceny and become robberies by the use of force when they do it, and we made a concerted effort to reduce that. We made a pretty significant reduction in crime over the past 3 months especially, and we're going to continue that right in through the holiday season. We feel that these crimes bleed over into our neighborhoods. The larcenies become issues, the theft, the goods, bringing people into our neighborhoods that we really don't want in our neighborhoods. That's what we do. So today, I stand here, we talk. Personally, I can say that there are always ways that we can do things different. There's always ways that we can improve. We're very open-minded in terms of improvements of how we can do things better. But the important thing, if you take anything away from this meeting, is that here we are, and we are listening.
Next, we're going to have Chief Wilson from the Chief of Support, please.
Deputy Chief James Wilson, Support Division. I'm filling in for Chief Lorna Atmore. The Support Division is exactly that. We provide basic support for the other divisions to do their job. The Support Division oversees Records Bureau, Court Liaison, Property Bureau. We're responsible for the physical structures, precincts, and the good working order of our facilities. Police information technology, we're responsible for network security, our programs, and make sure that they're functioning properly, as well as communications, the countywide radio system, as well as 911 call intake. The Support Division is, we employ the highest percentage, about 42% of our full-time civilian employees, majority of which are in this Communications Bureau. And the 911 call intake is a critical tool in the department's public safety efforts. And it's many times they are the public's first contact with the department. And because of that interaction with the public, Commissioner Ryder ensures that they are well-trained. They receive training in implicit bias, the use of language line. They're incorporated into our wellness program, mobile crisis outreach team training, and as well as de-escalation training, similar to what our sworn members receive. That's all I have. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving.
I'm going to have Inspector Field discuss the mentoring and recruitment. He's the head of our Personnel and Accounting Bureau.
Good afternoon, William Field, Inspector with the Police Department. Just want to briefly speak about recruitment efforts. The Police Department has been recruiting and continues to recruit for all job titles in the Police Department. In the past year alone, we've attended hundreds of recruitment events. Our Community Affairs Unit recruits at locations throughout the county. Just for a few examples, Boardwalk on Long Beach, Roosevelt Field, many institutions of higher learning, houses of worship, community parks. We're also actually in the community posting and handing out our flyers and recruitment information on the potential next exam. Currently, we have over 24,000 people registered or pre-registered with us for the next police officer exam. When that exam is announced, they will be notified of the registration requirements. Furthermore, our mentorship program has been implemented. This allows applicants to privately contact department fraternal organizations during the background investigation process. Our applicant investigation unit actively promotes and makes applicants aware of this program as well. That's all I have for you today, and thank you for your time.
Next, I'm going to have Detective Sergeant Sabrina Gregg talk about our language line.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Sabrina Gregg. I'm the department's language access coordinator, and it's my pleasure to speak with you today.
Turn that mic on.
Is this better? Okay. I'm the department's language access coordinator, and it's my pleasure to speak with you all today about the department's language access. From January 2020 to December 2020, the Nassau County Police Department utilized Language Line to assist individuals 7,659 times for a call duration totaling 45,446 minutes. From January 2021 to December 2021, we assisted individuals 8,964 times for a call duration totaling 50,336 minutes. This is an increase of 17%. So, the beginning of this year, January to June, we assisted individuals who needed assistance using Language Line 5,454 times. Year to date, from January to October 21st, we've doubled that, 10,503 times for a call duration of 61,971 minutes. So on an annual basis, Nassau County Police Department's Language Access Plan is audited by the Nassau County Department of Health Minority Affairs, and we're required to be certified. And consistently, every single year, we are certified. And I know I'm not supposed to say this, but we're actually one of the first to be certified with the outside agencies in Nassau County, because they're an outside agency and they're responsible for auditing all of Nassau County, not just the Nassau County Police Department. But we're consistently first in compliance, and we're being certified. Every recruit class receives training in language access assistance. And since 2018, prior to any reform, our commissioner had cell phones issued to every patrol car with the app downloaded. He spearheaded that for no reason other than his heart to help people. The department, under the leadership of the commissioner, is in the process of updating the current Language Line policy, revamping training, and implementing a more robust auditing system, which includes an external entity, in addition to the audit that's done by the Nassau County Health Services. And the commissioner probably does not remember this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Ms. Keshner had stated that there needs to be transparency, she needs to be able to contact the commissioner, but it just rung true for me about the process that he says works, which is to contact him. There was a time when I first took this position, was given it, pretty sure the commission may not have known who I was, but Ms. Keshner reached out and said that she's been trying to meet for several months now. Much as she said today, she's trying to have transparency and she's trying to have access to the department. When she reached out to the commissioner, I only mention this because I know what it feels like to get a call on Saturday when you think you're off, after years of working and not having Saturdays off, to get a call from the commissioner of the police department in your newly minted position asking you to be accountable for this information. So he called me and he emailed me, and when that didn't work because it was Saturday, he texted me and he called me and asked me, have you been allowing access to Ms. Keshner from the Empire Justice Center? Now, I know fully well that, yes, I do feel like family, but no way, shape, and form did I not understand that if I was not able to provide what I did in order to assist meeting with the Empire Justice Center, that there would be consequences, as there should be. Thankfully, I was able to provide that information, but the system does work. You call the commissioner, he answers, and he holds you accountable. I just felt like I needed to say that, even though you may not remember that. I have first-hand experience of being held accountable. There are many more instances where I could address, but I don't want to take up the esteemed members and my fellow officers' time. But I'm just grateful for the opportunity to speak about something I'm very passionate about, and I hope that everyone has a very blessed and safe holiday.
So one of the things that Sabrina left out is that of the 47% of the 94 calls that were done in the audit that Newsday reported, we to date have not received one complaint about Language Line. Not one. Nobody's ever called and said we have a problem, or an attorney or anybody called. The only issue we ever had was with Family and Children's Services about translation, and that officer is no longer in the employment of the Nassau County Police Department. He was forced to resign because of the way he was disrespectful to that person that was in need of services. Not because of the Language Line usage, because of his attitude towards that individual. So again, that gets left out, and thank you, Sergeant Gregg. I'm now going to have Nick Stillman report on our investigations regarding police officers, and he's the head of professional standards. Chief, there you go.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Ford, committee members. My name is Nicholas Stillman. I'm the Deputy Chief in charge of the Professional Standards Bureau, which encompasses internal affairs. But just to recap our complaint system, how to make a complaint in Nassau County. You could go in person, by telephone, mail, email on our website, under the county website. Attached to that email system is a Google Translator. So if you do not speak English, you can click on whatever language that you speak, and it will translate that complaint for you. It's then disseminated to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs makes a determination whether that complaint will be investigated at a command level or is kept by Internal Affairs. I'm just going to go over you the layers that are involved with this complaint system. A supervisor takes the complaint, sergeant or above. When that complaint is investigated, be it at a command level or an Internal Affairs level, it's signed off by the command level Internal Affairs liaison, which is usually the deputy commanding officer of that command, the commanding officer of that command, the bureau chief, the commanding officer of Internal Affairs, the commanding officer of Professional Standards Bureau, and the chief of department. Those are just for complaints. In circumstances of excessive force or criminal conduct, we are mandated to refer those complaints to the Public Corruption Bureau of the District Attorney's Office. In 2022, we referred 15 cases to the Public Corruption Unit. We also, due to police reform, under Title 75 A and B, we have to make a referral to the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office for the Attorney General for the state of New York. There's 2 times that we will make a referral to them. That is for excessive force complaints and unlawful conduct or corruption, egregious corruption. The other time we will refer a complaint to them is if an officer has 5 complaints within a 2-year period. They also receive that. That's on top of an alert that we have on our officers that in a 12-month period, if they receive 3 complaints, an alert is now sent to Internal Affairs. In the year 2021, we referred 25 cases to the Attorney General's Office, Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit. So far this year, we have sent 15 cases to the AG's office. I'm sorry, 15 cases in 2021 and 14 cases in 22. Public corruption received 25 cases in 21 and 15 cases in 22. Our stats for this year for the reporting period, January to June, we had a 31% reduction of complaints over 2021. There were 282 complaints in 21 for this time period and 195 for this year. The number one thing that we notice is our undetermined complaints, and that's basically there's insufficient evidence to prove or disprove a complaint. Since the advent of body-worn cameras starting in the 1st precinct in September of 2021 and completed at the 8th precinct September 23rd of 21, our officers on patrol have body-worn cameras. So our undetermined complaints have dropped because with the body-worn cameras, it's either founded or it's unfounded. The undetermineds have gone down because the proof of the occurrence is on the body-worn camera. Our founded cases have gone up 1.8%. Undetermined have gone down 5.6%. Exonerated have gone up 3.1%. I'm sorry, unfounded 3.1% and exonerated 0.7%. The advent of the body-worn cameras, I believe, helped the police officers on this department against allegations, and I also think it affects and helps the community to determine whether or not our officers are committing some kind of misconduct. Thank you.
So, look, you saw the numbers what Chief Stillman is explaining to you, and you see the numbers in certain areas, founded cases have gone up. Body camera tells the truth. A cop may be wrong. And cases where over 30% have gone down, body camera tells the truth, where our cops are right. So the numbers are swaying the way a body camera should work. What's not in there is how we deal in a review process. Every single day, I walked in the other day, the chief of department was reviewing body cam. The chief of patrol does it every day. Every commanding officer does it every day. We have 4 sergeants that do it. We're constantly making sure that when they go up to somebody, they address the person properly. They tell them why they're being stopped, through the right to know. We ask politely for the license and registration. All of that is on a body camera. They may have not committed anything wrong from the law enforcement side, but they did not live up to our standards. And we continue to have burns being handed down to those officers because they are not at that standard. And what happens in an officer, they go up to the AG. They come back and they say to me, unfounded, 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 but, and they add a button there and they add something. Like the other day that they believe the officer was spending too much time on the arrest. And that's a violation of that person's 4th Amendment rights, that we held them too long. Not knowing all the facts, but now I have to answer that. And if I don't answer strong enough against the officer, they have the right to override me and issue their own discipline from the Attorney General. So it puts a lot of pressure on what we have to do here in the commission. And on duty or off duty, you are responsible if somebody dies. So in an off-duty accident of a New York State trooper got in a couple of weeks ago, the AG takes that investigation, off duty. On duty, just 2 nights ago, our officers and gentlemen ran into the side of the car. Unfortunately, that man lost his life. But we have to answer now to the Attorney General. That case gets forwarded to the Attorney General. So when they say there's no oversight, There's oversight to the 10th level. Everything is being scrutinized by Internal Affairs, District Attorney, Attorney General, and of course the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Criminal Justice. There's plenty of oversight, and there's transparency with those body cameras. As asked before in the early parts of reform, when they talked about body cameras, and they said, Commissioner, you know, body cameras ain't the all answer. Well, then why'd you ask for them? Body cameras are an answer, 100%. And if you see and you've heard the disciplines that we're doling out because our officers are not being respectful, and also covering our officers and explaining the rights of our officers. So there's a lot that's going on in that moving world. So the last thing I'm going to bring up is, again, Detective Sergeant Sabrina Gregg and Chief Farrow, the head of Detective Division. Every single hate crime goes a channel, right? The first will go the investigative side. Cop responds, does what he does. Detective responds and does the investigation. From that detective, it goes up into his detective division, up through the chief of detectives, and then over to the chief of department, where it lands in Detective Sergeant Gregg's desk, right? She's the oversight. So that's Chief Farrow's role. But on the other side, the patrol side, as they come through, we want to make sure that patrol is doing everything it's supposed to do. So the oversight, again, comes back to the chief of department with Detective Sergeant Sabrina Gregg. So it gives you an idea of what's going on. So they'll tell you some of the numbers. Chief? Sabrina? Chief? You there?
By the way, happy Thanksgiving also. So, year to date, we've had 56 reported incidents of bias incidents, which resulted in 7 arrests, slightly up from year to date last year. Like the Commissioner said, we get, if patrol doesn't make a summary arrest during one of these instances, the Detective Division gets the case, and we treat it like any other investigation. We'll send a detective out there, we'll have crime scene come, memorialize whatever, if it's a graffiti type bias incident, they'll memorialize that, or we'll go interview the victim. And again, as I said, all these cases, we've had 7 arrests thus far this year. And again, there's a chief that's involved in the process. Deputy Chief of Detectives is the bias coordinator for the Detective Division, and then we have 8 bias coordinators that we work closely with. That's an inspector level and patrol. And again, all that information gets correlated and sent to the Chief of Department, to the District Attorney's Office, to New York State Department of Criminal Justice, and to the Anti-Defamation League. Every single month, these stats and information get sent.
Thank you.
And
Good,
from January of this year to October 1st of this year, there have been a total of 42 incidents.
Okay, so I'll jump into the numbers. And the first one I'll jump at is an arrest. So if you look at the arrest data, that's the first one on the sheet, right? So we have a total of 5,623 arrests, 35% African-American, 25% Hispanic, 33% white. Why? 65.2% are residents and 34.8% are non-residents. And I say that
Commissioner,
because...
I'm sorry, could I, right, it's Debbie, we don't have that information. Can you just hold on until we can get it? No. No.
It's online. Now. The stat numbers, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, everybody, for your patience as we had to take care of some things. And Commissioner Ryder, if you would like to continue.
Yep, so if you turn to the first page, it's arrest data. When you look at in the data, there's a total of 5,623 arrests. African Americans, 1,980, which is 35%. Hispanic is 25%, and white is 33%. 65.2% are residents, 34.8% are non-residents. But here's and I want you, there are 5 top communities that our arrests are made in. East Garden City, Westbury, Elmont, Uniondale, Valley Stream. East Garden City and Westbury are the mall and the Source Mall. Elmont is the border of the county line. Uniondale has the large Walmart and supermarket where we have a lot of arrests. And Valley Stream has the Green Acres Mall, where, again, these are our initiatives. Now, this is an important fact that we want you to understand, is that East Garden City.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you. The phrasing of East Garden City?
What do they say? The mall? Roosevelt Field?
No, it doesn't exist.
Uniondale. 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 Thank you. So, Uniondale, the 911 calls there, 98% of these arrests are generated by a 911 call. 1% are officer initiated. So this is the mall calling us for assistance. So 98% of the arrests that occur in Uniondale are from 911 calls. In Westbury, the Source Mall, 98% of those are called on 911 calls, those arrests. 98%, not us self-initiated, it is called by the community. In Elmont, 91% are called through 911, or what we call, I'm sorry, I apologize. 90% are called in through 911. Uniondale, two Uniondales. So Uniondale, 92% are called in, and in Valley Stream, 95% are called in. So these arrests are calls from the public, calls from the businesses saying that there is a top crimes. If you look at the top crimes, also goes down the line of 929 of those arrests are larcenies, petty larcenies. 862 are controlled substance, and then it goes assault, criminal mischief, and judicial proceedings, which basically is a domestic assault. So on average, 95% are from public calls to us, not self-initiated. So we're responding to the mall, we're responding to the domestic, we're responding to the drug dealing on the corner. Whatever it is, it's us responding to that need. And again, when we look at the arrest, it's not self-initiated arrest, it's driven by the 911 calls. Questions on that? Yes?
Yeah, Commissioner.
Is that all right that I can ask questions? Sorry.
What about traffic stops?
I didn't get there yet.
Oh, okay,
I'm just going
so
through
we're going
arrest.
to talk about that.
I'll go through each one.
Commissioner, and I know you had mentioned that these, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I know you had mentioned that these statistics are up on the website. The one thing I don't see that I'd be interested in seeing is, I think you were starting to allude to it, was the amount of arrests from people that are not from Nassau County. You were starting to get into it, and I think maybe you got interrupted. Maybe I didn't hear it.
So they are, we give the number of 65% that are residents, 34% are non-residents.
You did say that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's on the bottom. Oh, okay. Okay. Do you know where that 34, because that's a big number, 35%. Where's that number from?
That number coming from these top 5 arrest communities, one of the 5. Most of those arrests are probably from the Green Acres and Roosevelt Field. There are top 2 areas where we have arrests.
No, I understand. So you're saying, where is that 34% coming from? Suffolk, Queens, Brooklyn?
I don't know that, sir.
You don't know that, okay. Is that something that you can be able to?
Yes.
Okay.
Josh got married, so I didn't get to clean the date up. He's the kid who does it. I apologize.
Oh, okay. All right.
And do you also then break with the non-residents? Do you break it down, by ethnicity?
No, nope, because if I broke it down, we'd be having the same discussion, so I'm just giving you the numbers. I'm not, if it wants broken down, I could break it down, but it may not work in the way people think.
Okay.
I'll do it.
No. I was just asking, that's.
Okay.
I think what we would like to see, Commissioner, is the numbers broken down, especially by residents. Those are Nassau County residents. But if you can get it broken down by non-residents. Residents is.
Yes, sir. What would you like me to break down?
Residents are the priority.
If I can do this, make it simple, whatever the request is, if it goes to the chair and send it to me, I will definitely do it. If you have a way that you want it analyzed, we will do it.
But then just, when I look at this arrest data supplemental, okay, that you gave us, right? You seem to have it broken down, because, like, just for the larceny on the first line, if there were total of 929.
No, I break down the total arrest, right? And I understand what the minority officer is talking about. I break down the total arrest, and I give you the number of percentages of the demographics. But I don't do is tell, if I took out the non-residents, what would the number be, and what would be the number for the non-residents in the demographic? Am I right on that?
That's correct.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
I see. So then, like, say, if you go across the line and you say black 352, that's resident and non-resident.
That's total, right.
Oh, okay. I see, okay. If you can, then break that
I will
down.
do that.
That would be great, thanks.
Okay? So, if you flip 2 pages forward, use of force data, I think Nick Stillman went through that, if there's any questions on it, but you see that our numbers are coming down. Transparency with body cameras is the key on both sides, right? Look, when my cops are wrong, they're caught on the camera, they got to answer. And a lot what you don't see in here is not part of this. It's if we've signed somebody disrespectful, self-initiated that we find, we're disciplining him, you know, and we're issuing the 59 training ledger, whatever that was. If it's disrespectful first time, it's a training ledger. If it's failing to turn the body camera on, it's going to start off as a 59. The grace period is over, that we learning the new tool, and now it's in full force since the beginning of last year.
Can you explain, what is 15, when you say that they don't turn their body camera on, it's a 59? What does that mean?
So the first step of any discipline is a training ledger. We enter and we retrain the officer what they forgot to do, or intentionally, whatever it was. We feel they need to be retrained. The next step up would be a 59. It's just a number on the form, and that's kept in-house mostly, and discipline is issued in the precinct of occurrence, reported back to us. Then you go into a level of what's called a 209. That's after Internal Affairs closes their investigation. They complete the file of a 209, bring it forward to my office to sign, and then it goes to the choice of the officer if he wants to challenge that and have his say. He goes to a disciplinary review board, but if not, it stays at 209. It can go to a 210, or it can back down to a 59.
Do these stay in the office's records, or?
Yes.
So that it stays with them? And I know we want to talk about traffic stops. So when you say that an officer, if there's like 5 infractions within 2 years, that it goes up to the...
So that was never before until reform. Now, we always had it in our own as 3 in a year. Now it's 5 in 2 years that the Attorney General wants. So we still do ours, but if anything in 5, we have to send it up. We must send it up. If we fail to send it up, I get penalized, not the cop, I do. So that's what Internal Affairs does.
So it would be, so that if an officer fails to turn on their body camera, that would be something that would be part of the 3 in a year, 5 in 2 years?
No, because that's a technical thing. That's more of an administrative in-house. If he was disrespectful, if he was abusive, they would all go up.
Okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. All right. Flip the page forward. We go to the field interview stuff. Yes, thank you. Field interview. So again, of the field interview, and again, 57% are residents, 42% are non-residents. If you look at we receive calls through our CAD system, our 911 system, for people that are suspicious. We received 4,970 of those in this time period. 2,051 of them resulted in a field interview. So now our police officers receive that 911 call, we respond, and we prepare what's called a field interview. All stops must be reported. Stop, question, possibly frisk, right? If any layer in between is done, that must be reported. All stops are on body cameras. So again, when we do these stops and now the accusation is something, right, whatever you want to call it, we'll go and now we'll review, Internal Affairs will review the body camera against the complaint that is made and come to and do the investigation to find out what the outcome is. Those type of complaints, those type of things are again, looked at on a precinct level, chief of department, chief of patrol, constantly reviewing the body cameras to make sure that we are being compliant.
So, Commissioner, I just have a quick question. So, in the event someone files a complaint, could be for an officer, not anything as bad as excessive force, could be someone that was disrespectful, used foul language, cursed at them, whatever may be the case. And the person files a complaint, and then you research the complaint, and then you find out the camera was not on. What happens then?
He's going to receive it at a minimal of 59. It depends what the allegation is. If the allegation he was being disrespectful and because he failed to turn on his camera, he's automatically got a problem because he did not turn his camera on. I can now no longer find out who's telling the truth. Now I'm going to lean towards the complainant's side because the officer didn't turn his camera on, so shame on him.
How many complaints do you have? I mean, how many discipline actions do you have of officers not turning on their cameras?
God. I don't have that number, I'll get it, but it's up there.
It's up. Is it part of it because
I should say,
you and officers
yes,
are getting to turn it on?
Yes. In the first year, as we rolled it out, it's, you know, you responded to a call with a man with a gun or a domestic or an assault in progress. You're supposed to, once you get the call, click the button. But you're picking up your radio, you're responding that you're going, you're entering on your MDT, you're getting there, and sometimes the officers forget to turn it on. There was a grace period. We understand that. And the severity sometimes, if there's a shooting that instantly takes place, I hope they turn it on, but sometimes that doesn't work out that way. But we've been very fortunate that we don't find, now that we've passed the grace period, very few times that officers are forgetting to turn the camera on. If we find an officer that has 3 complaints or even 1 complaint that he did a field interview, he stopped somebody, and let's say the accusation is he patted me down for no reason, we'll go to the video. If there's no video, the officer has a problem right from the start, and all of those are thoroughly investigated.
But it only gets reviewed if there's a complaint.
No, we are proactively doing audits every day. The chief of department, the chief of the patrol lives on that. You see, coming, he has a Frank's last name. It's Frank. Chief LeBate, his role is to review video all during the course of the day. He's taking everything that happens. Any use of force, the chief of department's looking at it, also plus his team. And any arrest is automatically reviewed. Every day there's 20 analysts that sit in a room. If they find something they think was inappropriate, they give it to the supervisor, and the supervisor then looks at it. So we're all over looking at audits, but anytime anybody says something, we go right to the video camera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to review on that, though, can you give us the numbers, like when you first rolled it out, there are instances of an officer not turning on their body camera during the grace period, and then after the grace period, how many? Do you also determine, or do you try to track if there's like maybe 1 or 2 officers that consistently are the ones that are not turning on their cameras?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm going to say that, yes, right? And we have. And yes, right? We've caught those who just don't get it, right? And they're addressed. Some of them are not on the street no more because of that. Some people are just not grabbing the process. But on the other side of it, most of our cops are innocent. Hey, boy, I didn't turn it on. I'm guilty, but you know what? I wasn't thinking it was this. Oh, many times they get out to go to the deli, and they come out and they get in an altercation. The last thing they're doing is thinking about a camera. They're walking out with whatever they picked up at the deli, and they're involved in something on the street. But we are scrutinizing and auditing constantly throughout the system. I will get you the numbers that we have.
So when you say that you scrutinize and you look at, like you have somebody that goes through the daily body cameras, their reports and stuff like that, is it Chief of Aid, I guess, whoever it is, that would review all of this? Do they look at, like, say, you're an officer on patrol, okay, and you're sent to a call, all right? Is that what they do? They look at the number of calls you were dispatched to, and they look to see whether or not the body camera was turned on in correlation to the call?
So they do an audit. So much, you can't review every video every day but every arrest is reviewed, every field interview is reviewed, every altercation out there is reviewed, complaint is reviewed, but in the audit process, we're grabbing other ones and we're looking, and we'll find somebody, and if we find him once, we'll now go look back in his history, because it's all by your serial number. Bring up all his videos. Take a look to see if he's been compliant, or is this just a one-time mistake? And again, it happens. All right, flip down, and complaints Inspector Stillman spoke about. Summons data. Okay, so on the summons data, we have, in the African-American community, 22.9%, the Hispanic Latino, 22.5%, and the white, 34.4%. That's the percentage of tickets that are written. 59% are residents, 40% are non-residents, 32% are written by our highway unit, and our highway unit is on the LIE in the Cross Island, LIE in the South Oyster Bay. They don't know who's buzzing by them at 70, 80 miles an hour. They're stopping the cars and issuing the summonses. So a good percentage of that comes from highway. Many of these are quality of life. The number one complaint that we receive now is crazy driving, I'll call it. Speeding, running stop signs, running red lights, loud mufflers. That's where most of our complaints come from. And that's what most of when Chief Canavan spoke, I think it's 40-something percent. Was it 40-something percent? 60%. 60% of our summonses are coming, 60% of our complaints, quality of life, are about VTL infractions. So that's why our enforcement is, we're going where we're asked to go. We're not going in, and you saw the numbers about arrests. We're not going and going into certain communities and writing tickets. We go and do a lot of enforcement from our COPE and stuff and CERT when they go into Massapequa or Hicksville, because overdoses are number one in those communities, right? So we're going into Roosevelt and Uniondale if there's a complaint of speeding cars. We're going into Westbury Call Place if there's a complaint of somebody running stop signs. When we go there, we write an enormous amount of tickets to send a message to stop the violations. When we do that, and we're in a community that has a makeup of a minority community, there's going to be a lot of tickets written to the minority community in that, but we're working on what the complaints are. And that's why we now have that quality of life database, so we know where we're being asked to go. It's not that why is the number, so we spent a lot of time as Chief Candidate in Green Acres Mall this year because we were getting hit pretty hard with all larcenies and grand larcenies from within the malls. They storming the malls and running out with stuff that you see on TV. We've rectified a lot of that in Nassau County. And again, great initiatives that we've done. We've taken a crime that was up 74% to now it's down up just 46%. You know, so we've turned a lot of those numbers, but that comes with enforcement. And with enforcement comes numbers that we do. We're sending a message the best way that we can. We're trying to be as fair as we can. And, you know, we ask our cops to use common sense in situations. Sometimes that doesn't always prevail, but we always do that.
Are you done with the statistics, or did you want to continue?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you. Unless you have questions.
Go right ahead.
I wanted to just say something at this point. I feel a lot of tension in the room, and I hope everybody kind of takes a deep breath because nobody's on trial here. I think that as a legislator, I talk to so many people, and I truly believe that, of course, there's room for improvement. Of course, there are situations that that don't go right. It happens in policing. It happens in teaching. It happens with the church. It even happens with government officials, believe it or not, or politicians. But in being around the community and talking to every different type of neighborhood, and my district has them, you have most of the support of our community. I would probably say about 90%. I think people realize that your job is not easy, and that every interaction you have, you know, it's very difficult, and you never know what you're walking into. You're trained so well. I see that with our academy. I wish the whole nation had a training process like we did. I think that we would be in much better shape. There's a balance, and I believe in balance in life, and I think that a lot of the situations you're put into, you're walking into, you don't know exactly what's happening, and what saves you a lot of times is to have a little bit of power on your side, because people respect you and you're in uniform and you're trained, and it's I hate to say it, but it runs along the lines of the military, and I think we can reach a balance, though, where I want everyone to feel comfortable in this county. I want everyone to feel safe, but there is a little bit of something that has to happen with police enforcement in order for society to work. I mean, we need police in our society. I totally believe it. So we're trying to find that balance, but I just want everyone in this room to realize that, you know, we hear all that you do. We speak to people all the time. We appreciate all that you do. Are we making improvements? Yes. Technology with the landline, I thank you for your efforts. I know it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but the fact that we have that is an incredible option. I've been in Europe, and if you don't speak the language, you're in trouble. So to have that option available today is amazing. And I know it has glitches. I know there are times, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a tool that we didn't have 10 years ago. The cameras, the body cameras, I believe that you're right. I thought that I was in favor of them from day one, partially because I thought it would deter people from having, you know, altercations with police officers. It would show the truth. It would really help on both ends, and I'm happy to hear that that's what's going on. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. I'm so in favor of the mental health. I just hope that people, I know how hard the last couple of years especially have been. I've heard it from so many young officers, and I look out there and know a lot of young people, and that's what I want to feel encouraged. It's no one expects you to go on it alone, and I want our society would be so much better if people that needed to talk and needed a little help got it. It would just take care of so many problems, and I'm proud of our county for trying to take down that fear of asking for help or discussing things, because it's cumulative. You know, it's years and years of dealing with the same kind of thing and sometimes the same people, and it wears on you. And I'm proud that that part of our police reform has worked. And again, I do know there's improvement, but I want to just say one more thing. As a regular legislator in the last year and a half, I had a call or text my commissioner. One time was a neighbor's son who was sending videos to his mom with syringes in his wrist, trying to kill himself with opioid overdose, and the commissioner helped me to get him help. Another time, a friend of mine who lost her only child to cancer had a parade going, and unfortunately there was something wrong with the permit, and they were canceling the parade. And if this was her legacy for her son, and the commissioner, this was like, I think it was like a Sunday morning, stepped in and took care of it. Another time, 10 houses away from me, there was a drowning of a father and his son, both in the pool, because there was a problem with the light at the bottom of the pool, and they both were electrocuted right down the street from me. And he told me what was going on, and I was able to go out. My neighbors, as you can imagine, were horrified. So this was just a regular legislator in a regular district, you know, everyday life. And these 3 times I was able to help people because you answered me right away, Commissioner. And you know, I really appreciate that. I think that's that openness when there's a real emergency, and you know, that's what makes Nassau County, you know, all right, there are improvements that have to be made again, but I feel that most of our residents really appreciate the fact that they feel safe in their homes, and they feel that if they do have an issue, their needs will be met with the Nassau County Police. And I'm telling you right now, I'm proud to represent you.
So if I can respond to that, please, is that don't mistake passion for tension. We stood here yesterday, you all praising our police officers for the brave work they do. We appreciate that. We truly do. This is passion about the job they do, the job they love, and Bishop Mackey said it perfect. We are not perfect. We are not perfect, but we are really, really good at what we do, and if we recognize our shortcomings, we get better. We've gotten better in the last couple of years, definitely a better police department, and it's because of the reform. We embrace reform. All of us on this committee, and believe it or not, the 3 unions that stood up there also embrace it. They work with us on it, but it's passion because we want facts to be out there. You know, and again, that report was done on time, right? We want facts to be out there. We want people to understand what we're doing. We've done more for our communities than any other time in the history of this department, any other time. And it's those men and women back there that are doing it every day. Our PAL, our community affairs, the people that work with Bishop Mackey and Bishop Elliott and Reverend Thomas. We're out there all the time with these gentlemen trying to make better relationships with our communities. We are not perfect. We can be better. We strive to be better. And if you were in the room and heard the frank conversations that we have regarding race and tensions in our communities, you'd be amazed on the common sense approach that we take everything. That's because of the men and women that sit here and behind me. We're on the same team. We're not looking for a problem. We're looking to make it right. And that's what we try to do every day.
Well, I can't think of a better legacy for Mr. George Floyd than to hear that we're better policing in Nassau County because of the horrible tragedy that happened to him. At least some good came from that on a very small, it was, of course, still such a tragedy, and it's still so fresh in our minds, but to see that good is coming out of a tragedy is, I believe that's what life is, when you hope you learn and you hope you take good, even though I felt that our department was, would have handled that completely different, when I was grateful for that at the time. But it's still good to see that improvements over here have occurred because of it.
Thank you, Delia. Very well said, and thank you, Commissioner. And, yes, this was not meant to put anybody in the hot seat. This strictly is...
Sure feels warm over here.
Maybe the heat's turned on. Like we'll have that checked out. But actually, this is something that when we did the police reform, when we sat and we listened to everybody and we considered everything, that we did ask not only for a written update on police reform. I think it's every 6 months or every year or something. I forget. But also, if we'd be able to have a public hearing so that we can better understand your reports and all the data and whatever. And there are other questions that we have. And I do want to say that this actually is the second of hearings this year. We had one, I believe, in January. So, and I thank you very much because you're always available and you're willing to testify and bring in your executive staff and all your staff so that any questions, any concerns we have can be adequately answered. And I am glad that we're finally getting the data that we had asked for. I know that was something that was not collected in the past, but here we are, and it gives us something to work with. And a lot of the initiatives that you have taken as results. And Chief Smith, I know that you would, Commissioner Smith, I'm sorry, when you talked about the well-being for our officers and the efforts that you go to be able to help these brave men and women that work out in the field to protect us, to make sure that they themselves are taking care of themselves, I think is very, very key, because I think if you have a healthy police officer, you'll have a healthy police department. So, and I like a lot of the initiatives, but now we're going to go to the questions, okay? And as we do not have any direct questions from the public. I tried to write down as much as I can, so I'm going to ask if you can answer some of them, all right? So, very impressed with all the numbers, the data we received, and a lot that you are doing with your police department, all right? And I, like Delia, I do. I respect all of you, and I do think that it is a fine department. But I'm a little concerned, and I'm stymied over this thing. How is it that with the Vera Institute, we are in the 3%, like the worst, like 3% worse, so like the third worst police department in the country?
So I don't even know who this institute is. I don't know. I've never heard of it. I'd never read up on it. I do know for 3 years in a row, we're the safest community in America, right? So, and my data is not that overwhelming. So if Susan would like to send me that report, I'd love to see it and find out where it's from, and then I can answer you on it.
And I would ask that she copy us on that report as well, so that we have that information. It's also in the reports that you all received. Right, from you. I know the monitoring police reform in Nassau County, yes. So we'll take a look at that, but if we could send.
Dan, once again, smart.
Because, yeah, right, so then you go back, and I guess, when we were talking about infractions of police officers, disciplinary actions. So you do have multiple levels of oversight in regard to an officer's conduct, correct?
Yes.
All right, so then when it goes up, because I know that our Attorney General, James, was very proactive in setting up safeguards to make sure, like, of course, she oversees basically all the police departments throughout New York State. But she does have a dedicated unit, strictly just, for, under police reform?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Her whole unit, right, under whatever the executive law has asked of her,
Okay,
yes.
so then, in that sense of accountability, that it's not just something that stays within your department, this has to then go to our DA, up the ladder, criminal justice reform, or whatever justice system, and then up to the Attorney General,
No,
correct?
it'll go, automatically, it goes to the DA and to the Attorney General, same time. Not climbing, it goes to both separate entities and our internal affairs. And if there's a civil rights violation, that would be then, again, the Department of Justice.
Okay. All right, so then when the numbers that you sent up to the Attorney General, or that was directed up to her, how many have come back?
So we just recently got 5 back.
Okay.
3 of them agreed with the findings and what reading the reports, and the outcome. The other 2 came with a but, gave me the answer, but then there's a but to it, and I got to respond to the but.
So then, if it comes back and you're not properly disciplining the officers for the infractions, is that something that she would then look at and say to you, like, say you give the old proverbial slap on the wrist, this officer did such and such a thing, and you, like, said, just, don't do it again, all right?
Right.
And since it went up to her, would she then review what discipline you took in order, as a result of what this officer did? Do they review that?
Yeah, so every discipline that we handle, I sit down with one of the 3 gentlemen from the unions, Keith, Chris, and Dave Ray, and we take into consideration who the officer is, what the background is, what's the entire picture of an officer, and then what did they do? If they assaulted a prisoner, I don't care what your background is, it's not acceptable, right? But if you've done something like forgot to turn your body camera on, and this person has been an exemplary police officer, we're going to turn around and work out an agreement that's, look, this time it's just a training ledger. We're teaching them to do it. But what will happen is, if that happens 5 times in that 2-year period, it's going up to the AG. And the AG may turn around and say, no, that officer needs to be more severely disciplined. That's the finding. Then when it comes back to me, I have to answer that. And if I don't, and then send my results back to the AG. If the AG don't like it, the AG overrides it and comes down with a stricter penalty.
Okay, so then the discipline would come from her office, not from you. Okay. When they talk about transparency, okay, so, for better information, I understand there was a glitch with the information being posted online. You had done the report, but it just never got up there for whatever reason. I know computers are, temperamental sometimes. So, so with that, you'll constantly then make sure that these reports are online so that we can.
So twice a year, January 1, we close that's 6 months out. The report will be out within 30 days. That's as I explained it. We have to gather all the data. The same comes on the end of June, July 1st. 1 month later, you get all the data will be posted. It was posted, but then the link crashed, and nobody knew it because nobody was looking at it. We put a post.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you called me, yes, a month ago. So it was. Okay.
Excuse me.
So we were not aware that the link was down. When we found out the link was down, we notified county IT, and then there was a process to get that link back up.
Okay, so then we'll make sure that we monitor it more closely to make sure.
Right.
But even like, do you do daily reports? Do you give like daily numbers if people wanted to take a look at I don't know, I'm asking you. So I'm just, is there like on arrests or anything like that? Do you post a daily report, or is this just basically when you accumulate the data?
So all of our arrests that are of notoriety go through our public information office and go out.
Yeah.
All of our precincts do their reporting that anybody can go to and ask to report to see what the arrest data is. I think most of them, they're publicly posted, right, our arrest data? Once a month, I got to stare. On the website? Yeah, so it is on the website, yes.
Okay. Now, I'm jumping all over because I got questions that I'm asking. With the hate crimes, okay, I know that we had a very nice meeting, and thank you very much, Detective Sergeant Greg, when we discussed that and with the reporting. I guess, some of the groups, the people that are working with us on the hate crime issue are concerned, I guess they take a look at what Suffolk or whether or not Westchester or New York City, how many hate crimes are reported to them, but it seems like in Nassau County, we're much lower than adjacent districts, Is there any reason, I know that they want to ask, do you feel that there's any room for improvement in trying to get people to report hate crimes?
There's always room for improvement. But you brought up a point, and I would never I'm not throwing the Suffolk County Police under, I'm just using data.
Right, yeah.
Right? Because they're a great police department. The Suffolk County's numbers, crime numbers, across the board, are 3 times higher than us. The New York City Police Department, obviously 10 times higher in certain areas. So when you look at the community and the way we police and the way the county's made up, right? We're 457 square miles, 56. Suffolk's 3 times the size. We drop into Brookhaven. So they're much larger of an area to police, roughly the same population. But the way we police, the way we engage with our community, the way we take our reports and so forth, we have some of the lowest crime numbers in the country, as you know. And even when the crime went up, I bet you we win the safest county again, because we went up, but we're still fighting it and still looking at what the rest of the counties around us have done. So I know this is that when you look at hate crime, it definitely needs someone to address, right? Zero tolerance. We have that. We have detectives. We have 25 cases last year, or 27 cases. None of them are violent. None. There was a SWAT sticker written on a tree or side of a building or in a bathroom. Horrible, disgusting. We don't tolerate it. Or there may be somebody yells something out at somebody from a car. Or it may be sometimes a little bit more on the extreme side. But none of it is violent. And because we quickly address that, our detectives quickly address that, our crime scene gathers that information, our intelligence breaks it down and gets onto the social media and drags what it can. But I will tell you, and I agree, is there underreporting? Sure there is, absolutely. But creating a unit does not change the reporting. The community having an avenue to go through will change the reporting. Again, we know diversity in the police department. So I'm going to walk into the Asian community in Hicksville and ask them to report to me. And it's a little different, the trust level in the building, and just nervous to report it because of the retaliation that may come to them. But I get it. And so we are in the process of looking how we can restructure and without a cost, right? And try to find a way to get that, address it as a unit, and answer what we're looking for. But there's more than enforcement. It's education. It's awareness. It's going out there and using the Office of Minority Affairs, which we do. And they reach out to the community and bring it back to me and to address it. So there's a couple of things that we're discussing. Obviously, the county exec has to be briefed and go through stuff, and has been already on some of it. And when I go through with Deputy County Executive Fox, we'll come up with something for a solution.
Thank you, because I know, aside from the Office of Minority Affairs, you also have the Commission of Human Rights that were at that meeting, and
Yep.
they want to work with Detective, I'm going to say it wrong again, Detective Sergeant Craig, who I have to say that you really were, well, you gave us a lot of information that day, and you've been very responsive, and I thank you very much. And let me just see. I'm sorry about this. I'm trying to make sure. So then even with, I know like with the 911, we've changed the script for the 911 because it does seem, and I had a meeting with a separate group, nothing about policing, but about mental health, believe it or not. And they actually had commented how many times the police are at the hospitals, because rather than bringing whoever they picked up or arrested directly to jail, it seems like you're spending more time at the hospital than you are at.
Yeah. So there's two parts to this, right? The wellness of our police officers, which was created by a law given by this body that helped us better protect ourselves. Thank you. And then there's the other side of it that we go with mental health and how we address it. The scripts that we wrote for the 911 operators, what they have done for us in the mobile crisis unit, working with us and assisting, the training that our cops have received. Even before this, we brought 96%, I think was the number, if I remember correctly, when I spoke about this a couple years ago. 96% of our mental health cases went to the hospital. The problem was they got out when they wanted to get up and walk out, right? There was no way to hold them, and we got it. So we're working with mobile crisis that maybe before we bring them to the hospital, we can have mobile crisis intervene at the house, mobile crisis intervene on the phone. Maybe we don't even need the police. It could go to mobile crisis. So we've done a lot with mobile crisis and mental health issues, and you could see by the numbers. The beautiful thing about it is that we have not had a death in custody regarding such, and we've been able to minimize force when needed, only to protect many times the person that is suffering from that mental health issue. Our emergency service officers are the best. And when it really gets bad, H&T steps in. They're the most trained hostage negotiators in the country. And I got to give them the plug now. It used to be headed up by Commissioner Smith, but I got to give them the plug now. So, and again, Commissioner Sewell, she was also the head of H&T. It's a very well-respected unit, and they train hard, and they're very disciplined in what they do, and that's why we're about saving lives, not taking lives. That's what we do, serving the community and protecting the people that in those communities. But there is also that word of fairness, and that's what we're always working to do better on.
I thank you very much. You know, and that was the whole point of even with the police reform. We had said that, and you had indicated when we first passed it, that this was not like one simple document and that's it, close the door on it. This was going to be something that would be ever-changing, ever looked at. And obviously, you know, for me, in my opinion, that you're willing to talk about this, you meet with us, and Delia, you're right, like, you know, regardless of what time of the day or what day of the week, you know, we call, you do respond, and, you know, it doesn't have to be a legislator that you're advocating for, they're helping out. Even if a former legislator was able to speak with you in regard to something that was very important. And I know that you've spoken with other people as well that are just, you know, civilians. So, and we do, you know, you lead a very well-respected department.
Thank
that
you.
A lot of people do like you. They do respect our offices. They're very happy to see you around. I mean, I know we get calls. I mean, if you could have 500 POP offices, I think that maybe then all the PTAs and the civic organizations would be happy, you know, because I know that they do. And even with the community policing, when I go, we do hear from so many representatives from all the communities, and they're not shy about requests, complaints, whatever they have to do. They are right there, and they a lot of times they do call you directly. So I thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to open it up because I think there are other questions or comments from the other legislators. We will be in touch, and I thank you very much, and to all our offices. I thank your executive staff, your administration, for the fine work and the fine leadership that you have, and to all our offices. I thank you very much for your dedication to your job and to the communities, and to please make sure you stay safe, and all of you have a happy Thanksgiving. Legislator Pillow.
Thank you. Commissioner, I would like to thank you really personally. You have been there for my community for a long time. And I would like to thank all the officers, all men and women in blue. And what I would like to hear sometimes when we have this public hearing, more positive feedback coming from the community, because just to complain everything is bad is so wrong, really. Those people are out there protecting our community, putting their life out there. What about saying thank you? And you're right, we have to improve a lot of things, and we are in progress. And nobody's perfect, there's works to do, I agree, but we also need to give positive feedback. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Legislator Millet.
I'm going to be a little longer than that. I have pages of things. I was taking notes of what everyone said. I want to start by making a statement somewhat similar to what my colleague stated, that what I felt in the room. I felt the passion. I felt the tension. When Tommy was talking, it breaks my heart to hear that he feels attacked and that his officers feel attacked. Commissioner, I know I've been able to call you anytime I need to, and as well as anybody else, and I am nothing but 100% in my admiration of what you do. At the same time, my heart breaks for the community members who are speaking here, and feeling that that their needs are not being met, and they're representing communities, and so I think what I came away with this is that there's a problem with trust, right? I guess if people feel attacked, they don't feel that they can trust the people who are attacking them when they know that they're doing a great job every day. But at the same time, the people who are, the people who are stating things that they believe need to be fixed are feeling like they don't have trust. And again, this is my takeaway from all of this, that they don't have, that they cannot trust what's being said because they're saying things and they feel that they're not being heard or addressed. So as a member of the Public Safety Committee, I think maybe we need to do a better job because we allowed this to go longer than it should have. There was our last meeting was in December, and we should have met in July. We should have insisted on having the report in July. So I think we dropped the ball on this, and that's on us. We have to take that responsibility. And I think we as a committee need to communicate more and better. I know, Denise, you were mentioning, we've had this discussion, but you were talking about the meeting that you had where you got all that great information, and I had no idea what that information was. So I think as a committee, we need to communicate better and make sure that we hold you accountable to the schedules that are in the police reform. So that's on us, and we need to do that. So, okay, let me get to all of, my gosh, I have a lot. And some of it was talked about. I also think that it's wrong to have a dichotomy such that if you ask questions, that means you're not supportive. I think that's how we get better. That we need to always ask questions, and I know that you're always open to hearing those questions. I guess it's perhaps in the way that it's framed, or maybe even who it's coming from, that it's hard to hear sometimes, and really hear what those issues are. So anyway, I think for myself, we need police. It's obviously, that's what my community wants. That's what I want. We need effective policing in the communities. We need to feel safe. And I was very pleased, actually, to hear, Commissioner, that you felt that we could perhaps once again be up for safest community. We haven't heard that narrative for quite a while, and maybe that's for political reasons, and that's a shame. Because if, in fact, we are the safest community once again, I think that that's something to celebrate, and we need to hear that. And that's thanks to all of you who are out there doing the day-to-day policing. I know we haven't heard that yet, but I hope that you're right, that we will be hearing that. Okay, so oh gosh, okay, so you mentioned that the website was down and that's why the information wasn't up. How long had that gone on for?
So my report was done at the end of January.
Right.
As required. You submit it, went up, went down. The link broke.
Right.
And we tried to fix it, it jumped to another link. Then it jumped off all. It was numerous problems after that, trying to get it back and then running correctly.
Okay. Could I make a request, Commissioner, that if that happens again, that you notify the Public Safety Committee so that we can do whatever we can on our side to help you get that rectified? Because it's important. It's part of our police reform plan. We need to get that information out. And that helps you, I think, with community trust to make sure that that's taken care of. And if we can help in any way, I think that would be, certainly a good thing to do. Okay. Oh, I have so many questions. I'm not going to be able to ask them all. Okay. Okay, we talked about how often police officers don't turn camera on, and you gave a good detailed explanation of that. Let's see. Okay. Okay, to the mobile crisis unit, and I understand that that's not in your department per se, but what I wanted to know is, are you aware, and again, you may not be able to answer that, as part of the police reform plan, we talked about beefing up their staff so that they would have the adequate resources to respond properly. Do you know, was that accomplished?
I can't answer to their staffing levels. I can only answer to the fact that they've been very cooperative in working with us.
Okay, and how are there meetings between the mobile crisis unit and the police department on a regular basis to talk about best practices and hey, this happened in this way and maybe we need to approach it a different way, or is there any type of regular communication with regards to that?
There is always, like what we call wash down afterwards and discussing to see what could have been done better, but that's usually done at the level of the ESU unit with the police officer or maybe mobile crisis. Right there, it's done right there at the scene, and they discuss what could have been done better. And if there's a correction to be made, we make the correction right away.
Okay, and does that information get filtered to the management at the mobile crisis unit so that they can make sure that it gets filtered to all of their people?
Every incident has a report done, and every report is filed, so everybody gets to see it.
Right, but because they're not part of the police department, how does it get brought to the attention of the management at mobile crisis unit?
I believe mobile crisis does a report also. I can't speak for them, but I believe they do.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is I want to make sure that there's adequate communication.
The relationship between mobile crisis, O'Mara, and the group in there is excellent, no problems. Staffing and response and everything else, again, that's on their end of it, so I'm not going to speak on that. I know this, when they do come to the scene, they've been helpful.
Yeah.
They've worked with us. Our ESU and patrol force has been done a great job. And even at the level of Communications Bureau, when the original call comes in, there's an instant link to mobile crisis. The phone is always answered, and they go, this is what we got going on. She goes, I know her. Can you let me have an opportunity to speak? Stay on the line and speak to her for a minute. Make sure, okay, I'm good. Thank you. We'll handle it from here, and we pass it off.
Okay. I'm just thrilled to hear that. And I have spoken to people at the mobile crisis unit, and they have said it's really been a great transition and relationship. So I think that's all to the good of everybody, because you certainly don't want people who have mental health crises to be criminalized unnecessarily. So I think that's a wonderful thing. Okay. Let's see. All right, I think I'm going to be good for now.
Thank you. If there's anything else, you can send it.
So many notes, and yeah, but I basically said what I wanted to say in terms of.
So I apologize. Lorna Atmore, who's homesick and listening in, thank her for her dedication. The chief reported in that Patrol and MCOT have a standing Thursday meeting, so they meet every Thursday.
Oh, wonderful. All right. I'm very, very pleased to hear that. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We want to wish Chief Atwell a speedy recovery, and I hope she's feeling better.
Me too, I need her back.
Okay, all right. No, Legislator Bino, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't take the first couple of minutes of my time with you to also extend, my appreciation for all that you do on a daily basis, all that your team does. I am afforded an opportunity to reach out to you when things are occurring in the community. You are always available, which is, I often feel terrible before I text. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm texting him. But it's with knowing that you'd rather I reach out than not. And it's that willingness to always be responsive to me that makes me feel like the open door policy exists almost 24 hours a day.
Yes, it does.
So, but thank you for that. And as you would know, when I first came here to the county back in 2014, I had set my sights on trying to work along with the police department and the police unions to strengthen relationship in our communities. And we have been able to work together from Christmas events to the back to school events throughout the district to really strengthen those relationships. And I thought we worked in a very unique way to be able to make sure that even at the back to school events, it wasn't as simple as handing out a backpack, right? We actually packed those bags together. We actually had community members from the schools, from civic associations, from community organizations paired up with different police union and police administration at these stations packing the bags. And these authentic, genuine relationships would just birth. And I would show up at some of these community organizations, and you guys would be there through an invitation from those community organizations. So I am happy that we've been able to continue that throughout the year, the National Nights Out. All of those things I think are important. I think that on a day-to-day basis, when you're in the community, you are celebrated for what you're doing. I know on National Night Out, I walk the street with you and people are yelling out "Ryder," and I'm like, how do these people know you? From the sidelines at the parade. So I know that what we're doing in terms of being in the community works. There are challenges, right? No one's perfect, and interactions aren't always perfect. And that's why I was one of the first, along with Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams, to want body cameras from back in 2015. I'm happy we have them. We're seeing the benefits of the body cameras on both ends, where you're able to identify, officers that might need to be retrained, retooled, and community decline in complaints. So we know the hard and rough and tumble conversations sometimes that we have to have, or exacting change. And so in the spirit of continuing change, I'm going to ask some questions as to some of the information that we got here today. Language access, as we, I know that there was a report that came out. I know that whether you would have liked it been dealt with differently, we have some data that came out from these interactions. I've had to take statistics several times through my undergrad and graduate degree, and I know that statistics, we have to understand, kind of how they're birthed into existence sometimes to really have full confidence in them. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna take your statistics at face value, and in the immediate, until something can change, or I can have an opportunity to have them defend their data, I'm just going to say we do have to acknowledge maybe that we need to do something different with language line. And I did hear it in your presentation. I'm wondering if you can expound upon what improvements you're planning in more granular detail for me.
So I'm going to kick it to Sabrina Gregg because she's done such a great job with it. But I will tell you that even the report came out, and it's the numbers, 47% of the 90-something calls. We took what we knew, what we have, because we don't have it all, we just have a number in the paper, and we have created an investigation on every single one of them. Every single one of them to find out what went wrong, not what the Newsday report gave us. And so we're investigating to make sure you can only correct what you know is wrong. You can't just guess and say, oh, this is not working right. So we always, that's why I say, call me right away so I can address that. I need to know if that officer is impolite. I need to know if that technology, and in this case, I think 30-something or 20-something% of the calls dropped. Maybe that was a technology thing, not an officer disconnecting. But I don't know because I didn't have the data. So, and I still don't have it. So, I did last time. So I am, again, I'd be happy to accept the data, the recordings that they made, and that will help out with my investigations. But Sabrina will explain what we've done to make it better.
Okay. Excuse my Long Island accent, because especially when I try to speak a different language, it comes out more. But one of the things that we're doing is we're addressing call retention, because some of the claims that were made, and again, this was a discussion we had months ago. How do we address retention, because we don't want to lose anyone. Obviously, we know how important it is to take every single call. So one of the things that is coming down the pipe is that we're going to be asking, dame su numero, por favor, un momento, which means one of the steps that are going to be made in the protocol is asking for a number prior to doing anything else. So if there is a disconnect, whether by user or language line, we'll be able to call back. Or we can even connect, I've found in testing, with language line. Now, because not all the precincts have caller ID. If you lose someone, now that we have this number, we can call language line first, have them connect that number, so then we can have more of a connection now. So that prevents, that speaks to caller retention. We have a video now that's coming out. The current video we have is actually really, really good. It tells you exactly how officer gets assistance. The department intranet has been revamped so it can be user-friendly, so training can happen at any time, essentially, from a patrol car as well as a precinct. If you have a question of how do you use the language line, there's literally a video enacting what the steps are. That's being revamped with more current members of service, as well as the additional changes that have been made, which include the revamping of the intranet, where it tells our officers where the video, where point to your card access can be found. Just a number of resources have been made readily accessible for our officers, so they'll always have an opportunity to provide assistance. And so that's our procedure that's also being updated about adding the fact that we're using cell phones, not just landlines, how to go and use different landlines to get a connection between language line. So we're doing everything we possibly can and being proactive in updating and making sure that our members have all the resources and the capabilities of how to connect and assist the limited English proficient.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, Madam Chair has stated protocol that we wouldn't ask any questions specifically regarding, I believe it was training and recruitment. But I just want to ask, it's not going to be specific to that. It's just going to, my question is, how has the department been able to work with the newly formed Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Department that under County Executive Blakeman was formed, and I believe it's sitting under the vertical of Human Rights Division? Have we been able to work with them on training and recruiting and other
So we have a dialogue that is continuing with them about what we're looking to do. They're developing as they're going through their new office, so they're trying to develop everything there, but we do have an ongoing dialogue with them.
Okay. And they're going to be immersed into,
Yes,
okay,
in the recruitment process.
into the recruitment
Yes.
process? Okay, they'll be baked into that.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And so, police officer wellness, I'm really excited to hear about some of the work that we're doing, and I know it's going to be undergirded by PBA President Thomas Shevlin, because he's birthed out of that division, and he has an extraordinary story that I think would definitely encourage officers to get engaged and look to learn some of those tools. And I know that we're doing seminars. I wanted to know, and I look at that as being preventative. But I also look at, us being a little more proactive, I guess, in terms of, and I've been talking about it for a while, EIS, right? The early intervention system, where there's indicators that pop people out. And so, do we have any data that specifically could illustrate for us how many officers are taking advantage of the wellness, like counseling programs, and how they're actually being identified, or how are they engaging? Like, so is it voluntary strictly, or are folks being referred to do so because of, popping out some indicators that suggest that they might benefit?
I would say this. Number one, and Tommy Shevlin's terrific. There's no question about it. He's a big supporter, and we have symposiums, and sometimes we have 2 a month, once a month, whatever the case may be, on topics like sometimes even financial wellness. I mean, these are things that prey on people's minds. So financial, nutrition, improving sleep, time management, all these different seminars. We have one coming up in December. I'll invite you to it if you'd like to see what we do there. All right, we have our COPS program about suicide prevention coming up. If you'd like to join in for one a day or just see it, it's going to be at the Academy. We'd love to have you attend. You can see what we do firsthand. As far as getting people to attend, it's a growing program. It's voluntary. People can come. Different classes of employees are coming. And by different classes, I mean people in different divisions. Communications operators, they go through a lot. Fielding those calls, assigning those calls, sometimes never hearing what the end story is, whether someone survived or not. So these kind of things can prey on their minds. So they're encouraged to come, all right? Dispatchers are encouraged to come. All walks of life within the police department are encouraged to come, and they come on their own. And it's taking off by word of mouth. People aren't required to go, but they're availing themselves of it. And it's increasing. With every program that we do, we seem to get more people who kind of latch on and like it and look forward to the next one and make suggestions about things that they'd like to see the program, directions they'd like to see the program go into. It could be things like yoga. It could be things like stretching. It could be things, again, like nutrition. It could be things like, what do you do if you have a person in your family with a substance abuse? How do you handle that? What do you look for? Making everyone aware of it. Sometimes we don't see our own problems. So this opens our eyes.
I think that's great, and I definitely welcome the opportunity to come and participate in that training. As you would know, I took part in the Civilian Police Academy, and that was an eye-opening experience. And I suggest, members of the community and my colleagues who haven't maybe taken part in that program definitely avail themselves to it, because it's quite a learning experience.
Well, knowing your interest, I'd certainly like you to invite you over. You can spend a couple hours and see what we're going to do on these.
I would love to.
On that
would love
date.
to.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, in terms of, when we talked about disciplining an officer, the camera's not on, whatever the case may be, and they get there's a first step and then there's a 59 and the like. Is there ever a time when we might identify, like, this person is just spiraling, they're just in trouble, we're just going to mandate them to go to counseling? Are there times when that occurs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's what the whole, it's a progression. Your mistakes, it's a progression in discipline, right? Sometimes you're right at the top level depending on what you did. Mm-hmm. Most of the time you're bottom. But we're looking at that. It goes into what we call the blue team. And when we see somebody that's got a couple of issues, we address it right away, even though they may not have reached a founded conclusion, doesn't mean we're not still looking at that person.
Okay, that's important. I think good people under stress sometimes make bad decisions, and we need to reduce those times or those circumstances where they're placed in those positions to do so. So I want to pivot to let's go to the mobile crisis then, if you don't mind. I think Debbie asked quite a few questions, and I just wanted to follow up on the mobile crisis team responses. And so they go out, if it's a call, is it just mentally aided, or are we doing that also for homeless people? Or, because I know there's got to be an uptick in the number of homeless calls that are coming in.
Yes, homeless is rising. It's in all communities across the board. And we have a committee that got together that involved Department of Social Service and a couple of different groups that, hey, we got a homeless problem, we need to address this homeless problem. And it's going to get worse. And when the winter comes, the cold weather, the last thing we want to see is somebody frozen to death in a bench because we didn't give them a service. So we're in tune with that. We're working with our other county agencies to do just that. Mobile crisis is an option amongst many other options. You know, we offer housing. We offer the warming centers, which are now open. And the county exec has made sure that the messaging is out there in the advertisement and letting our cops also know that it's warming centers. We can get them to a contact mobile crisis. In a case when they're not healthy, we can get them to the hospital. We do everything we can to try to get them out of that environment because the environment's not healthy for them, right? And if it's all said and done, unless it's dangerous weather and they're endangerment to themselves, we got to leave them. But then we get DSS involved, and there's a process that they do where they re-interview to try to get that person back into some kind of assistance.
So, if you meet a homeless person and you're able to call DSS and they're able to house them, do the police transport those individuals to the shelter?
Depending on the situation, so a warming center, 100%. We get a call for somebody who's at, let's say they show up and they're in, sitting today in Cedar Creek Park somewhere, and then they said they want to get some assistance, they want to go to the warming center in Mitchell Field. We will transport them. Most of the times, we may call an ambulance to do that transport because we want to make sure we're transporting somebody that's healthy and not put them in a police car. But yes, we will.
Okay, I can slow down using my Uber account. I've been Ubering people to the shelters. That's good to know. I mean, it's I don't know if auxiliary or there's some other means to do that other than using police, but our homeless situation is really, in the county, is really out of control. And the symptom of it is people sleeping in places where most people feel uncomfortable witnessing it, outside of people's doors or in front of stores at night and things like that. And those individuals are desperate. In many cases, they'll do desperate things, and homelessness is, I think, a major indicator that someone is in need of mental health.
Yep.
And so if we can try and in as many cases as possible have the mobile crisis team also respond, I think it would be extremely helpful, because in a case of even last week, I got a call from a shop owner. The person was homeless, needed to be transported. I called DSS myself, arranged for the person to go to a shelter, sent them over in the Uber, but the woman said to me, if this person doesn't come to DSS tomorrow, that's it. They're not going to be housed. We sent them with the note, the whole thing, to call Alana, my staffer, on her cell phone. We were going to arrange to Uber them to the DSS in the morning. They never called. And I think that if mobile crisis is embedded in that process, they'll get more of a wraparound service initially to maybe have a more successful outcome. So I know 911 is typically, the hub for that dispatched call, but it really, I think, if we can work together to figure out how mobile crisis could better be embedded, and then train the 911 operators to engage them as well. That might be helpful. So, you know, in terms of arrest data and I guess some of the field interview data and the summons data, without crunching the numbers and the like, you can see there's a disparity in the numbers. You've mentioned that in summons, the cases of summonses, and in some of this work, that it is the database that Chief Catavan, am I right? Yep, is maintaining. And you're saying, and I know for a fact that I've called you about complaints at stop signs, so when I saw the Westbury number, you know, and you're saying that those, where some of those summonses are coming from, it's birthed out of complaints to my office or to me personally saying people are running stop signs.
Right.
Is there a way to correlate that data back to those complaints and provide us with a report so that we can look at it to try and maybe reconcile to these disparities?
We get reports back when we send a DPA or something, right? So when we send someone out to handle a quality of life issues such as a stop sign, that highway unit will go and issue, if it is a highway or precinct unit, will issue summonses. The report of how many summonses were issued will be given back to the Chief of Patrol's office and goes into that Q&L database.
Okay, and so there is a way to give us a report that can bounce against that? I think it would help us maybe reconcile to some of the disparity that we're able to see in the reports. I'm going to, in the immediate, just thank you for your responses, and I look forward to getting the information we requested and the invitation to come to the training. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Smith, if you'd extend an invitation to the rest of the legislators as well, I know that.
Well, there's limited seating. There's limited seating. I'm telling you, I can't do everybody.
So you do it more than we're coming groups.
$20
How's
a
that?
head.
Okay, I think we'll pay that.
No, it's not.
Thank you, Chairman Ford, and thanks to all of you, and thanks to our officers, and thanks to our public that's here as well. I first want to take the opportunity to thank Chairwoman Ford. I think she's done exactly what she's set out to do. When the police reforms were passed, she said that we were going to hold hearings. We have now held our second hearing. I think she's stressed and tried to make sure that the process is fair and that everyone has an opportunity to speak. I like the fact that she called on the public first and foremost to have an opportunity to speak. There's a lot of villages in this county. Every which one was supposed to do police reforms very similar to what Nassau County had to do. And when we talk about accountability and transparency, it's not just the Nassau County Police Department. There are other police departments that exist in this county that are not under the jurisdiction of the Nassau County Police Department, and I'm willing to bet that they're not doing the level of showing up and taking on the tough questions just like this commissioner is. Now, I may disagree on some things that the commissioner has said, and we've disagreed, I mean, on many things. But in terms of showing up and taking the hits and being accountable, it's not that. You've shown up.
Thank you.
And I know we may disagree on some of the things I'm going to bring up today, but I do want to start out by thanking you for the officers that are going to be able to walk out. And
They're out there already.
because I think that's important. And that's kind of hits into the themes that I wanted to talk about in regards to transparency, trustworthiness, and frankly, having an honest dialogue. Before I do that, though, the Nassau County Police Department that I grew up with, that I know, my interactions with the Nassau County Police Department have been nothing but positive. Partly because I guess to some degree, people may, when an officer asks for my license or registration, they may recognize my name, may treat me a little bit differently. Who knows? It could be my response and how I talk to an officer. Could be that too as well. But it pains me that there are many throughout our communities that do not have that same level of admiration or understanding for our police department. And I talked about the fact that we're talking about transparency, trustworthiness, and honesty. And we have to have an honest discussion. in this room, because many of the people that I'm willing to bet that have a higher distrust of our police department come from minority communities. For various reasons, they have that level of distrust. So I think what we have to continue to do, and I think Tommy Shevlin talked about it a little bit in his open remarks, is we have to expand the dialogue. I know you're doing a lot to ensure that you're in the communities. I know you are. I know you're having our officers there and they're communicating to our public. We have to do even more. Because the only way you're able to knock down those barriers is by making sure that you build up trust. And that's why I really encourage you to have those officers get out and talk to those deli owners. And you're doing it. And I appreciate that. Trust me. Through the moon. Because you have to build the dialogue. And trust is both ways. And I like to be frank. I mean, obviously, in our communities, some folks just say police is bad, police is bad. That's not true. Trust goes both ways. The officer has to be able to trust the community, and the community has to be able to trust the officer. It goes both ways. So from that standpoint, I would like to be able to work with you, work with the folks that are over there, work with all of our community residents to ensure that we try to build more opportunities and avenues for dialogue so that we can have a positive discussion. Today is more of a hearing. We're trying to fact gather, we're trying to gather statistics, we're trying to gather numbers, we're trying to formulate what numbers we need and what numbers we need and how we want to present them. But today is not the path. It may be to some degree, but it's not the real path to get to the police department that I would like to see us get to, which is one where not just Kevon Abrahams believes in that department, but all my residents do. So one of the things I wanted to dive into, Commissioner, and I'm not going to get into any of the legal situations, but but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the recruitment stats. I saw a couple things in the paper that talked about the recruitment numbers in terms of hiring more minority officers is up. I don't know if you got a chance to really dive into those numbers, but I would like to hear some of those numbers a little bit more expanded on today.
I think, who has the recruitment numbers? Here he is. We do have what we've recruited so far and signed up for the early. So we now have created an app. Take a picture if you have the ability to do that, or you give us a card, we fill it out. And when the test is designed and ready to go, we notify you to let you know, hey, you came, you showed us an interest, here's the date. But Billy will give you the numbers.
William Field with the police department. Specifically, which numbers? With the most recent academy classes, or?
Well, I mean, if you can go back to, let me see.
2018 was last test.
2018 was last test?
I don't have the numbers for the appointment from then forward.
What do you have?
I have the most recent. So this year, we've hired 109 officers total between two academy classes. Approximately 17 are Hispanic, 5 are black, and 5 were Asian.
He also wants to know about the recruitment.
The recruitment, so recruitment-wise, we've sent out 24, we've had 24,000 people, or actually more than that, sign up for the pre-registration. And of that group, we also have breakdowns as to how they identified. Approximately 26% identified as Hispanic, approximately 15% identified as black, and approximately 9% identified as Asian, about 50% identified as white or other.
Just go back to the 109, I'm sorry, and I'll jump into that afterwards.
Okay.
Of the 109, 17 were Latino, Hispanic?
Yes, sir.
And then 5 were black and 5 were Asian?
Yes, sir.
Which, to my math, that gets me to 27.
Correct.
Out of the 109?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then roughly that's, I guess, less than 30%.
That's correct.
And so what I always try to envision is when it comes to recruitment in our police force, not just our police force, our government, everything that taxpayers are tied into, it should be a microcosm of our communities. So our communities are 50, I'm looking at your statistics, Commissioner, 56% white, 18% Latino, Hispanic, 10.6% black, and 11.7% Asian. These numbers don't reflect that. So I'm glad to see that we have some level of minority officers, but what's your plans to try to get those numbers up more? Because I truly believe that helps with our efforts in terms of trust and transparency, because obviously people want to see people from their community become officers. And I think officers have the highest level of responsibility because they're looked at and they're seen as individuals that are above and beyond where our highest and our best are considered to be in that they're trusted with that responsibility of being considered the highest and the best. So what are our efforts to boost those?
I'll answer that, Billy, is that right? So one of them is the most important that we control is recruitment, right? So community outreach and building bridges and all that stuff is building that recruitment drive. The majority of where we recruit is in the minority communities. And Billy, do me a favor. Just don't go away, son. Get back there. Give me the numbers of you said again. Well, how many out of that number, how many white, African American, and Hispanic?
In
Recruitment, Billy.
Of the over 24,000 people, approximately 26% identify as Hispanic, 15% as black, 9% as Asian.
So
is that part of the 109?
that's part of the 24,000.
Oh, the
This is
24,000.
yeah. I'm trying to. You asked the question of how we can improve, right? This is what we control. So, but not control it. We encourage it. So we've been out in the minority communities, campaigning really hard. We're in the malls, we're everything else, trying to get it up. But you see already the problem. 24,000 people, only 26% are Latino and 15% black. That's a problem. And we're in the minority community. So the recruitment is an issue. They can't do it on their own, the community affairs officers. Hey, do me a favor. My POP cops, my PAL cops and community affairs, stand up. Just stand up for a minute. That looks like your community, right? And that's what's in the community. And I'm using them to be my pitch. Thank you, guys. And again, and still the sale is hard. The sale is hard. You know, that's why we do so much outreach to increase it. I went back over the last numbers, and I remember giving them numbers here already. But again, if on the day of the test, to show up, if 96% white, 96% Hispanic, and 40% African American is what showed up that signed up, I lost that. I lost so many people in there. How do I fix that? How do I make sure that I can get them to show up for the day of the test? That's my concern, and that's what we discuss all the time in the recruitment. I've done my part as putting the right people into that gives a comfort level to a kid. Says, you know what? If you could be a cop, I could be a cop, and I'm going to sign up. I'm going to take that early enrollment, but I'll bet you, dollars to donuts, when I actually send the cards out, the numbers will even be lower. Here we go, we're signing up for the test. You ready to sign up? The number will be lower. So the sales pitch from us is coming. It's coming hard. We're in the right areas. Like if you're selling something, this is the community you're selling to. That's what we're trying to sell to. But I need the help of the community to get the young men and women to sign up for the test.
And I say that because obviously, Commissioner, I don't believe you're going to get to the numbers that I talked about.
I agree.
In terms of the population in overnight. I mean, honestly, you may not see those numbers in the next year. It's a constant relationship building. It's little things, you know. It's officers being seen more. It's residents having positive interaction with officers. It's a culmination
Yes.
of things that happen over a course of a year, in many things that neither you nor I can control. So I think from that standpoint, I would like to sit down and figure out how we continue to make that better. Because I think we have to strive in a direction to make sure, and I said it before, not just our police department, but our county, our government is representative of the people of Nassau County. The next issue I wanted to dive into is the complaints portion of the data. One of the things I noticed as you were going through it, and you might have explained it, but I don't remember hearing it. You mentioned that there were 61 founded allegations in 2021 that were classified as, you may not have said this. You said 126, and then you said we're down 15. But I noticed that 61 of the allegations that were founded in 2021 classified as other. And then in 2022, it was 10. I don't have an issue with the number. I'm trusting that the fact that you're reporting the right number. What's other?
So other becomes this. You get the complaint of the officer was abusive, right? And we bring them in, we start. They failed to fill out their memo book. So they're in there for this. We find out they didn't, this is good, this didn't happen, we can verify it from the body camera, but they didn't fill out the paperwork properly, so they're gonna get burned for that. Nick, can you give a little extra on that?
So basically, the complaints are broken down. Approximately 9.
Yeah, I understand improper procedures.
Department of Violations of Rules.
Yeah, I understand that.
The other would be misappropriation of property. There's lost property somewhere. That's not defined as one of the 9, so that might be an other.
When you say misappropriation of property, you mean like they misplaced like a flashlight or something, or a gun? Or?
No, misappropriation of property, let's say for somebody that was in custody.
Oh.
So that would be, the property wasn't stolen, there was no unlawful conduct, but during the processing, the property is missing. So that individual, that police officer, because he didn't complete the right forms, that would be the other found it. That would be an example.
Okay. What are some other examples?
Like the commissioner said, if somebody came in and the allegation was unlawful arrest, but that was justified, but the officer didn't fill out a use of force form, that would be another.
And I mean, I guess based on that, I guess officers are getting better with those types of issues, so the number went down from 61 to 10.
Well, and the other thing also, with something's defined as other, they can most likely be brought into one of those 9 definitions.
Got it. One of the things, Commissioner, I can't remember if it was you or someone else, was mentioned in regards to there's been 9 officers that have been removed this year?
This year.
Total?
This year.
This year. 9 officers that have lost their job.
That have lost their job, either been terminated, resigned, or forced into retirement.
And those 9 officers are captured into the founded allegations, or that's separate?
They may not have been involved in even an allegation. Some of these are self-reporting. Many of them are off-duty actions that never came from a complaint that we found out about. And actions in a bar or something of that nature.
Oh, so it could be off-duty too?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the things, if it's possible, I mean, obviously those private matters are something else, but one of the things I would like to see that helps with the transparency is having a dialogue with the community so that they can actually hear some of these cases, because sometimes cases, it's perceived it went one way, but then when the facts come out, it maybe not totally perceived that way. If there could be a dialogue to be able to discuss what happened in a particular case once everything is settled.
So in every complaint that is called into the police department, the victim is notified of the outcome.
Oh,
yes.
Every time.
And the victim is notified in the beginning to interview that victim, the victim or witness, and then there's notified of the outcome when it is complete. Correct, Nick?
Yes, sir. So at the outcome of each investigation, whether it's through internal affairs or at the command level, at the command level, the liaison for the command will reach out to the complainant and notify him or her the outcome of the investigation. That's actually documented on the form. And whether or not the complainant is satisfied with the outcome of that investigation. The same thing holds true with an internal affairs investigation. We reach out to the complainants, we inform them of the outcome, and then we say there is discipline attached to it, but we don't go into what the discipline was.
Got it. My final question, Chairman, thank you for being patient, is so, and this is kind of a sensitive matter, so I don't know at some point, I guess we could discuss it maybe later on in an executive session. There are many cases that come up to Nassau County that we have to settle that involve police officers. I'm sure you're aware of them.
Yes.
I don't know the number, but if I had to guess, it's millions of dollars. sometimes we hear that as bad as situations may sound when we're settling millions of dollars on these cases to settle with the county, we hear that the officers are still there. They're still working in their capacity in somehow, some way. I don't know if there's a way in terms of how do you review officers that may have had situations where their actions may not been the best judgment. How do we reconcile that with sometimes them still staying on the job? I mean, I know there's obviously collective bargaining issues and stuff like that, but we hear about that constantly. And it's a constant thing that we hear, and I don't want to go too deep into it because a lot of it was shared in executive session, even though some of these cases have been adjudicated, so they're resolved.
So
But
unfortunately, because the way the law is written, as we know it, and because of the protections of the right of the officer, right? So many times, we can't discuss what happened, right? But what we can do is remedy it. Many times in these investigations, now, since the county exec has been in office, every single case will be reviewed with the county attorney through the police department before there's any settlement made. That wasn't done before. So, and the county exec also wants to know what was the outcome of the officer. So, a lot of times these payouts that we do, and there's a bad officer, unfortunately, I couldn't fire that officer. We have reached agreements with our unions that, many times, because of that exact issue, suspended without pay indefinitely until we can come out with an outcome. Because I'm not going to pay him while he's here, while this is going on and being litigated, and it's an agreement that's reached with the unions. So it's a protection for the officer, but at the same time, this group that we have set, this union group, understand that we have the protection of the county first, the protection of the police department first, and of course our officers. But when they're wrong or believed to be wrong, we enter into agreements that protect the county.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I mean, obviously, the county's already paid the money. We're paying out the money. But the one thing that we would like to hear, and I don't know if it could be from yourself, Commissioner, or someone else, that if there was something that was done that cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, that we like to know that there was some type of action that's going to be in place that doesn't happen again. That there's some reform that's in place so it doesn't happen again. I don't know how we could do that, Madam Chair. Put in that. Yeah.
Right. So I will speak today, but I think the comfort level could be done in executive session.
Okay. All right. I just want to sum up again by rapid. Case by case, Commissioner?
I'm looking for the attorney answer.
Look,
I will get you that answer, sir.
I think Tatum's going to save you.
Hi, everybody. Tatum Fox. So I believe any settlement already comes to you in executive session,
Yes.
so we could incorporate that as part of the dialogue going forward.
That'd be a good idea. That'd be a good idea. I just want to summarize again.
I
know you're on the hot seat, not so much for everyone that worked with you, but look, I've always had a very frank and
Yes, sir.
honest discussion.
And we appreciate
text
that.
messages with you. I think I just texted you yesterday about the East Garden City stuff or something like that. To that effect. So
I'm never going to say that word again.
No, it was a result of that.
If Pearl finds out I said it that way, I'm in trouble.
I'm going to continue. I think the best way for us to strive and continue to get the police department that everyone sees the way I see it is to continue the dialogue.
Yes, sir.
Have an honest, transparent, trustworthy conversations. That's the way we get there. And I truly believe everyone in this room wants that. Everyone in this room wants to see our best and our brightest seen that way by every single individual. So I think that it starts, obviously, with those honest discussions, understanding where where some of the feelings that's not the case in some of our communities. And I actually have an honest discussion about, as it breaks down by race, which it does, by minority communities. So I think from that standpoint, if we're able to be honest with each other, we can definitely move forward. But I want to thank you again. I want to thank our officers as well. Also, I want to thank, I think Since Tommy Shevlin has been there as the president of the PBA, it's been a breath of fresh air. He has provided a perspective that I have not heard from a police PBA president ever. From that standpoint, I think if there's an opportunity to change, I think working with yourself, working with this body, and our members, and all our union presidents, I don't want to dismiss Jeff or Rick, but I've known those guys for years. Ricky's great too. I mean, I know those guys for years. Tommy, I have not known for years as much as him, but I think he's definitely a breath of fresh air. But that being said, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Legislator Giuffre.
So, Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for your, thank you to your whole team for today's presentation. Thank you for leading the department, certainly in the right direction, for sure. And just Minority Leader Abrahams, I know we've talked about lawsuits. From personal experience, they're often a compromise of a dispute. Yeah, and so not to say that we shouldn't look into the factual backgrounds, for sure we should, but sometimes we sit in executive session and where all of us are scratching our heads as to, why are we paying that? Why don't we just try the case? But of course, the county attorney advises, and we generally abide by that advice if there's to settle for various reasons, including financial risk. Just the cost of going to trial sometimes can be more than the cost of the settlement. But thank you again for today, Chief, Commissioner, Detective Sergeant. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. Have a happy Thanksgiving. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I know that we took a long time, but I think it was fruitful, right? And
Thank you.
Oh, you want to? Okay, sorry.
Commissioner, I have one question. You said not a lot of kids showing up for the test. I was wondering, there is any preparation for that test?
So that's the beauty of what this test is going to do, what hasn't been done before. We are mentors, and some of our staff, they are still also our mentors. When the test is announced, we are going to give some opportunities in the communities to come to a venue that we can explain to them what test taking is like. We don't know what the test is. None of us do. It's created by a private company under the consent decree, which I have my own opinion about. But that test, when designed, we teach people how to take a test, look for things like the absolute, circle, underline, and what the test should look like, reading comprehension and so forth. So we teach them how to prepare to take a test, which hasn't been done before, and so we're hoping that that will help them with the test-taking skills.
What about giving them, you have example of tests from the past, just for them? Is it impossible?
No, we don't. We never see the test. I've never seen a test. Whoever takes the test, what the best as he can do from his memory is what he'll remember from that test. And there's some people that are very good at that, but we don't see what the test is, and the test changes every time. We have an idea of the design form, meaning reading comprehension will make up this much. This part will be about just a Q&A, a question and answer, and so stuff like that.
I see. Okay.
Well, once again, thank you very much to everybody who was here today, from the public, from our organizations, as well as police department and our union presidents. All of you, I thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for your kind words. And to all of you, have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yes,
and
happy
as I
Thanksgiving.
said, once again,
Thank you very
all
much.
of you be safe. Thank you.
I didn't eat Mike's chocolate, and I'm not going to. You know I want to. It was good. It was good. It was good. Thank you. You did good. You kept up with us.
Can't invite 19 people to this week. Like, I'm not going to do it.
Sir?
What?
You can be.
I can't invite 19 people. But one from each side.
Commissioner, you have to say to him,